Chapter 315. On the rostrum beside the arena, all the big shots, including the military big shot Lu Shuming, were watching. They were all looking at Mo Shi, who was in the center position of world society. They were all secretly guessing the strength of this gang leader. To be able to convince these desolate hunters, this gang leader was definitely at least a level 2 desolate hunter. They were even secretly guessing that this world society strength could be ranked in the top 10. Finally, during the 10th round of the first round, Mo Shi appeared. His luck was pretty good. His opponent was a level 8 desolate hunter. At this time, almost everyone's eyes fell on Mo Shi, who was in the ring. Look, the gang leader of world society is here. His opponent is probably in trouble. The gang leader of world society is a desolate hunter. That goes without saying. Let's just watch the show. The big shots on the rostrum also fixed their eyes on Mo Shi. They wanted to see what level this desolate hunter was at. Mo Shi's opponent was a burly man who looked very rough. He was the kind of person who wouldn't give up until all hope was gone. Other people said that this world society gang leader was a desolate hunter and was very powerful. However, he didn't believe it. Without seeing it with his own eyes, he didn't believe that such a young guy was a desolate hunter. Mo Shi looked at this rough and burly man, but his face remained calm and unperturbed. Until the referee said, "Begin." The burly man roared. Then, his right arm started to condense a genetic weapon. Not only genetic weapon, but he also wanted to use energy weapon. He wanted to KO this kid in one move. Just when his genetic weapon had just formed and his energy weapon had yet to form, Mo Shi suddenly disappeared. Ichem? That burly man was slightly stunned. The next moment, Mo Shi appeared behind him. He punched out with his right fist. Bang! That burly man was caught off guard and his whole body was thrown more than 100 meters forward. He fell out of the arena. That burly man was instantly furious. Damn, this was a sneak attack. Couldn't they have fought fair and square? What kind of man was a sneak attack? However, the rule was that as long as he was thrown out of the arena, he would lose. Although he was unwilling, he couldn't do anything. Whoosh! The scene was once again in an uproar. Another move. Do the people of the World Club only know one move? Isn't the speed of the World Society's Gang Master too terrifying? I didn't even see it clearly. Not only is it fast, but its strength is also extraordinary. He is definitely a desolate hunter. However, the desolate hunters at the scene all revealed looks of surprise at this moment. This was because they could feel that the aura that Mo Shi had exuded during the battle was not that of a desolate hunter. Instead, they were scavengers. He was just a level 5 hunter. They had previously guessed that this gang leader might be a level 2, level 3, or even level 4 desolate hunter. As a result, he did not expect that his realm was only a level 5 hunter. The contrast between before and after was too great, making it hard for people to believe. On the rostrum, the big shots exchanged glances. All of them were a little surprised. The leader of the World Society is a level 5 scavenger? A level 5 hunter can make a group of hunters follow him blindly? I'm afraid it's because of his powerful ability to fight above his level. He is a level 5 hunter, but he can kill a level 8 hunter with one punch. It's really rare to see someone who can fight above his level. Yes, the stronger you are, the more difficult it is to fight above your level. However, he can fight above his level and easily kill his opponent. He can be called a peerless genius. Even in the history books, it's rare to see such a genius. Commander Lu Shuming finally spoke. He didn't use energy or telekinesis. As soon as he said this, all the big shots were stunned. Then, the shock on their faces was several times more than before. He didn't use energy. He didn't use telekinesis either. This, just physical strength? This kid is too strong. Using pure physical strength to kill an opponent above his level. It's rare. It's not just rare. Even if you flip through the history books, you can't find an example of someone who defeated an opponent with pure physical strength without using energy or telekinesis. Even Emperor Ming, who founded the new era of our Flaming Dawn continent, didn't do it. The few big shots had reason to be amazed. Mo Shi's performance was really too abnormal. These people had never seen or even heard of such a performance in the past. At this time, the big shots were already secretly guessing. If he could kill an opponent above his level without using energy, then how many levels could he surpass if he used energy? Mo Shi, on the other hand, felt that this was quite normal. He returned to his position and felt the surging energy in his body. Although he didn't use energy in the punch just now, the energy in his body seemed to have begun to surge. Obviously, he was about to break through. Could it be that he would be able to break through this time without the dragon's blood? In fact, it was as Mo Shi thought. although his dragon blood hadn't reached the limit of what his body could bear. In fact, it wasn't too far away. And the battle just now made the energy in his body surge. This was a sign that his body longed for a breakthrough. When other people experienced this feeling during their cultivation, it meant that they had reached the critical point of a breakthrough. As long as there was another opportunity, they would be able to break through naturally. Emosure had been relying on the system to break through. And this time, it was the first time he felt the critical point of a breakthrough without relying on the system. This made him secretly happy. It seemed that this martial arts tournament was his opportunity to break through. Soon, the results of the first round were announced. The other forces basically all had people eliminated. Only the top 10 forces basically sent out level 10 hunters. And they were all level 10 hunters who had stayed for a long time, looking for an opportunity to break through. Therefore, no one from these forces was eliminated. Other than the top 10 forces, the other force that didn't have anyone eliminated was the World Society. This was obviously beyond everyone's expectations. A force that was still unknown before this morning actually had such powerful strength. Next, in the second round, a hunter from the World Society met a hunter from another force. In the end, he was eliminated by that force. The other 8 people easily eliminated their opponents. Emosure's opponent was a level 10 hunter. This time, Emosure finally used some of his energy. Actually, he could have used his fist with energy to finish off that guy. But in order to not attract too much attention, he condensed a genetic martial art and then used it to blast that guy out of the arena. At this moment, the entire spectator stand was suddenly filled with noise. Chapter 316. When Emosure defeated his opponent, who was 5 levels higher than him, he sent his opponent flying. The crowd was in an uproar. 50% of the audience raised their hands in the air, screaming, shouting, and clapping. Awesome! He defeated an opponent who was 5 levels higher than him in an instant. Has there ever been someone who defeated an opponent who was 5 levels higher than him in an instant? One of a kind, absolutely one of a kind. Heaven-defying, genius, pervert, demon. No words are enough to describe the World Society's leader. Don't stop me, I want to marry him, I want to have children with him. At the same time, on the platform beside the arena, all the bigwigs were also shocked. He defeated an opponent who was 5 levels higher than him in an instant. If he grows up, his future will be limitless. Everyone think about it, if he becomes a level 1 desolate hunter, then we... At this point, the boss did not continue. But the other bosses knew what he meant. If the World Society's leader were to become a level 1 desolate hunter one day, then these big shots wouldn't be his match at all. Lu Shuming was considering whether the World Society could be incorporated into the military's forces. If that was the case, the World Society would be able to obtain training resources provided by the military. And the military would also be able to obtain the combat power of the World Society's desolate hunters. This was a win-win situation for both sides. If the World Society's leader grew up, he would definitely be a boss. And he would be an existence that far surpassed the other 10 bosses. If the military were to be on good terms with such a person, there would be many benefits and no harm. In the eyes of the World Society members behind Emosure, these people's astonishment was nothing out of the ordinary. Too many strange things had happened to their leader and they were already used to it. Next, the third round of the competition. 2 of the World Society's desolate hunters met other factions' desolate hunters. One of them won and one lost, and one of them was eliminated. As for Emosure, his opponent was a level 10 desolate hunter from one of the top 10 factions. Emosure still did not use his energy weapon. He only used his genetic weapon and sent that person flying out of the arena with a punch. Another round of thunderous applause and cheers rang out one after another. After 3 rounds, there were only 125 contestants left. Among these contestants, World Society accounted for 8 of them. These contestants were either level 10 hunters or level 1 hunters. Those below level 10 had basically been eliminated. Only Emosure was a level 5 hunter, and he could be called an outlier among the contestants. After 3 rounds of battle, the competition for the day ended here. The remaining rounds would be held tomorrow. Emosure led the World Club members away from the battle arena and found a more remote and quiet place to rest. Emosure gave each of the desolate hunters a bottle of recovery medicine. Although the current recovery potion was not very effective for desolate hunters, it was still very effective. However, it would also allow them to recover to their peak state within 2 hours. As for Emosure himself, he did not expend much energy today. With his physique, even without the use of recovery potions, he would be able to fully recover in a short period of time. The sun had set, and the temperature at Huichun Peak was much lower than during the day. For cultivators like Mo Shi, this was naturally not a problem. What Mo Shi was worried about was Happy. He asked with concern, "Happy, are you cold? If you are, put on a few more layers of clothes." Happy shook her head. "I'm not cold." As a god's oracle, even if she couldn't activate her abilities, the cold wouldn't affect her too much. Happy gestured to Mo Shi. "Brother Mo, I think I'm different." Mo Shi smiled and rubbed her head. "Tell me what's different?" Happy gestured and said, "I'm not afraid of the miasma when I follow you up the mountain. Also, my physical strength seems to be much stronger than before. I just checked the temperature on the mountain. It's only about 3 degrees Celsius. However, I don't feel cold even though I'm wearing thin clothes." Mo Shi smiled and said, "You didn't really notice this recently, did you?" Happy looked at the stars in the sky and continued gestured. "When I was on Earth, I already noticed that something was wrong. My strength seems to have increased and my memory seems to have improved. However, it wasn't too obvious back then, so I didn't pay too much attention to it. After coming to the Flaming Land, I seem to have become much stronger in all aspects compared to when I was on Earth." Saying this, Happy was silent for a moment. She continued to gesture with her hand. "Brother Mo, do you think I'm sick?" Mo Shi laughed and said, "Of course not. Of course not. Because..." At this point he approached Happy and whispered, "You're a god speaker. You're a god speaker." Happy was puzzled. He looked around, then carefully gestured and asked, "A god speaker? What's that?" Mo Shi answered, "A god speaker is a god speaker. A god speaker might not appear in hundreds or thousands of years. Even in the current Flaming Land, there are only legends of god speakers. No real god speaker has appeared. You're the first one." As he spoke, Mo Shi sent all the information he knew about god speakers to Happy's multifunctional watch. Happy looked at the information about god speakers on the multifunctional watch. After a while he looked at Mo Shi in disbelief. He gestured with his hand. "Brother Mo, am I really a god speaker?" She actually knew that Mo Shi would not lie to her. However, she really did not dare to believe it. She could not believe that she was such a powerful god speaker. As long as she said the word die, no matter how powerful the enemy was, they would be reduced to ashes. She had even saved the base before. She had always thought that she was a useless person. In order to not let others think that she was too useless, and to not let others think that Mr. Mo's woman was too useless, she had been working hard. She had never thought that she would be a god speaker and save the base like Brother Mo. Mo Shi patted Happy's head again, and there was a gentle smile in his eyes. "Don't think too much. You don't have to cultivate or anything. When the base or I need you, your god speaker ability will naturally awaken again." Happy nodded and gestured to Mo Shi. "Brother Mo, Happy is no longer a useless person." While Mo Shi and Happy were talking, something else was happening on the other side. Some temporary tents had already been set up next to the venue of the competition. In these temporary tents were the leaders of various factions. In the tent of the Undying Village's village chief, a skinny old man in black reported to the village chief, "Village chief, we couldn't find any clues about world society." In the tent of the White Lotus School of the Virgin, the White Lotus School of the Virgin sat on the bed, dressed in white. A White Lotus School of the Virgin whispered, "Virgin, we couldn't find any clues about world society." The White Lotus School of the Virgin frowned slightly. After a while she said, "Go. Tell the Virgin to work hard in her cultivation. This time we must at least get into the top 8. Chapter 317. While the big shots of the other forces were racking their brains to find out all the information about the world society, in the largest tent, Commander Lu Shuming was sitting on the ground, flipping through documents. Even though he came to the martial arts tournament this time, he still brought some important documents with him. At this moment, a division commander strode in. He gave Lu Shuming a standard military salute. He said, "Commander, we still haven't found any information about the world society." Lu Shuming withdrew his gaze from the documents and looked at the division commander. "Tell me the details." The division commander nodded. "Yes, Commander. I've asked our Army's intelligence network to do their best to collect information about the world society and send them the images of several important figures of the world society. But so far we haven't collected any information. This can only mean one thing. These people have never appeared as the world society before. To put it simply, the name World Society is probably a last-minute name they came up with." Lu Shuming nodded and asked, the division commander said. But according to the images of their leader, the woman beside him and the child, we found records about them. They once went to the second hunting island, and according to the information we got from the Qing family, the Qing family was probably annihilated by them. Lu Shuming narrowed his eyes slightly. To be able to annihilate the entire Qing family, it seems that their forces aren't ordinary. The division commander asked. They annihilated the Qing family, should we interfere? Lu Shuming shook his head and said. A while ago the commander had made clear the division of our duties. Our duty as soldiers is to protect the lives and property of the people of Yuzhou, and at the same time to maintain the integrity of the territory. As for the conflicts between the various sects, they're all internal conflicts in Yuzhou, and we'd better not interfere. Avoid excessive consumption. Yes, Commander. The division commander replied. Lu Shuming continued. Come with me to meet the leader of the World Society. The division commander replied. Yes. A moment later, Lu Shuming led the two division commanders to the camp of the World Society. When they arrived, the people of the World Society immediately guarded outside Mo Shi's tent. Mo Shi also noticed Lu Shuming's arrival, and a smile appeared on his lips. It seemed that his performance had attracted the attention of this big shot. Now that he was here, it was obvious that he had seen his potential, so he took the initiative to befriend him. As part of the military, they had always been dismissive of other forces. Even the top 10 forces had to lower their heads in front of the military. Now that Lu Shuming had taken the initiative to look for him, it seemed like he wanted to express his goodwill. As part of the military, they were actually willing to express goodwill to a newly established world society. As expected, their horizons had long surpassed the other forces. Mo Shi was very satisfied with this point of the military of Yuzhou province. Of course, being on good terms with the military of Yuzhou province would be of great help to Mo Shi and the world society. Thinking of this, Mo Shi immediately went out to greet him. He smiled and said, So it's Commander Lu. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Lu Shuming also laughed. Gang leader Mo's World Club really shone brightly today. Mo Shi smiled and said, You're flattering me. I was just lucky. The two exchanged a few pleasantries and then Mo Shi led Lu Shuming into the tent. Lu Shuming was a soldier and he liked to be straightforward. This was also to Mo Shi's liking. Therefore, apart from the few pleasantries at the beginning, the two went straight to the point after entering the tent. Lu Shuming said, Gang leader Mo, do you have any intention of joining the military? Mo Shi didn't beat around the bush and directly refused. I've always been used to freedom. So I have no intention of joining the military for the time being. Lu Shuming persuaded, Mr. Mo, the potential you have is far beyond your imagination. But if you want to fully stimulate your potential, you need a lot of resources. And these resources can be provided to you by the military. So please consider it, gang leader Mo Shi said. Thank you for your kindness, Commander Lu. But I haven't decided to join the military for the time being. Lu Shuming was also a person with character. Although he had taken a fancy to a talent like Mo Shi, he wouldn't pester him. A look of regret appeared on his face and he said, That's a pity. But I hope we'll have a chance to work together in the future. Mo Shi nodded. It's our world society's honor to work with the military. Since the negotiation didn't work out, Lu Shuming didn't stay any longer. In less than 10 minutes he left Mo Shi's tent. At the same time, the news had already spread to the other factions. In the Chamber of Commerce's tent, Commander Lu of the military is meeting with gang leader Mo of the World Society. It's very likely that gang leader Mo will latch onto the military's thigh from today onwards. So we have to do something. Get someone to prepare a gift. After the martial arts tournament ends, I'll go see gang leader Mo immediately. In the Triple Gates tent, Sect Master Lin Yuxiang said, Now that the World Society has latched onto the military's thigh, they'll grow into a very thick thigh in a very short time. Prepare a gift for me. I'll go see Sect Master Mo first thing tomorrow morning. In the Giant Eagle Gang's tent, prepare a gift for me. I'm going to see Sect Master Mo now. A few sects came to the World Society's tent that night, wanting to see Mo Shi. But Mo Shi had always liked peace and quiet. He told Emma to tell them that he still had to participate in the tournament the next day, so he needed to get enough sleep that night. Those factions could only leave resentfully. After sending off those factions, Mo Shi brought Happy into the Dragon's Cave. This was Happy's first time entering the Dragon's Cave, so he was very curious. Mo Shi said to Happy, This is the safest place. Even if the world outside ends, no one will disturb you here. You can sleep safely here. Happy nodded and gestured with his hands. Big Brother Mo, you should sleep early too. While many factions treated the world society as a thigh that was about to grow and wanted to latch onto them, there were also some factions that treated the world society as their greatest enemy. They were here for the reward this time. Originally they were still a little confident, but now the world society had sent out 9 desolate hunters at once. There was also a monster who, although not a desolate hunter, could instantly kill an opponent who was 5 ranks higher than him. This filled them with a sense of crisis, especially the 11th faction. This was especially true for the 11th ranked organization. They had originally sent out 2 hunters to participate in this mission. They had sent out 2 desolate hunters, and one of them was even a level 2 desolate hunter. They thought that with such a lineup, they could completely crush the other factions' lineups and win the championship. But they didn't expect that the World Society would appear. The appearance of the World Society greatly reduced their chances of winning the championship. Chapter 318. The 11th ranked faction was called the Fallen Feathersword Sect. Once a cultivator reached a certain level, it would be extremely difficult for them to increase their level. At this time, many cultivators would shift their focus to the study of combat techniques and techniques. Thus, many different cultivation factions were born. There were factions that used guns and factions that used blades. There were factions that used bodyguards and factions that used swords. The reason why the Fallen Feathersword Sect was called the Fallen Feathersword Sect was because they possessed an extremely powerful sword technique. There was a saying, wherever the sword aura passes, the ground will be covered in feathers. Thus, it was called the Fallen Feathersword Sect. In this martial arts tournament, the Fallen Feathersword Sect had sent 2 desolate hunters to participate. There was even a level 2 desolate hunter. This was the strongest battle force in this martial arts tournament. This way they could display their powerful strength and aim for the top 10 in the top 100 factions tournament. Secondly, they were determined to obtain the rewards of this martial arts tournament. However, the sect master of the Fallen Feathersword Sect, Luo Chenchio, was frowning slightly. In front of him were 2 higher-ups of the Fallen Feathersword Sect. Seeing Luo Chenchio's worried expression, one of the higher-ups asked, "Sect Master, what are you worried about with our lineup this time?" Luo Chenchio smiled bitterly and shook his head. The lineup this time is indeed very strong. However, the strength of the World Society has far exceeded my expectations. The other higher-up muttered to himself, "Sect Master, our level 2 Desolate Hunter should be the highest level among all the participants. Although the World Society is strong, none of them can contend against our level 2 Desolate Hunter." Luo Chenchio still had a worried expression. "Even so, we can't let our guard down. What if the World Society still has a trump card? Therefore we have to have a backup plan." The 2 higher-ups looked at each other and said, "Sect Master, if we really can't do it, we'll let our level 2 Desolate Hunter use his strongest trump card." Luo Chenchio was slightly startled when he heard this. It seemed like he couldn't make up his mind. One of the higher-ups said, "Sect Master, I know what you're worried about. The level 2 Desolate Hunter's strongest trump card is also our Fallen Feathersword Sect's strongest trump card. If we reveal this trump card, it will be much easier for other factions to deal with us in the future." Luo Chenchio nodded, and another higher-up said, "That's right. But Sect Leader, if we can squeeze into the top 10, our fame will increase greatly." The commercial value was self-evident. If we befriend the other top 10 forces in the future, not many forces will dare to touch us. Furthermore, if you become the champion, you will be rewarded. The incomplete dragon vein and the map of the ancient dragon battlefield. Both of them were priceless treasures that couldn't be bought with money. And if we're lucky enough to figure out the secret. When Luo Chenchio heard this, his eyes lit up. A moment later, his brows finally relaxed. He seemed to have finally made up his mind. "We'll do as you say. Pass down my orders. Tell Zhao Huan to go all out and become the champion of this martial arts assembly." "Yes, Sect Leader." The next morning he ate the breakfast he had prepared himself. Mo Shi and the others rushed to the arena once again. Even though there were only 15 of them in total. Compared to the other forces, they were alone. But today no one dared to look down on them. There was even a trace of envy, reverence, or flattery in many people's eyes. "Sect Leader Mo is here." "Good morning, Sect Leader Mo. Sect Leader Mo, why did you fall for the trap?" Mo Shi nodded at these people and led the 14 members of the World Society into the arena. On the rostrum by the side of the arena, those big shots' gazes seemed to have inadvertently swept across the World Society's location. Being watched by so many big shots, Mo Shi's expression didn't change and his heart didn't beat faster. Soon the martial arts assembly began. The first batch didn't have Emosher's name. Instead, there were 3 Desolate Hunters from the World Society. Out of these 3, one of them happened to meet the level 2 Desolate Hunter and was eliminated. The other one met the Holy Maiden of the White Lotus Society and was also eliminated. Emosher shook his head as he watched. Although the Desolate Hunters he had brought with him were only level 1 Desolate Hunters, they were all level 1 Desolate Hunters. But they had just become Desolate Hunters on the 4th day. Firstly, they weren't familiar with their speed, strength, and other aspects after leveling up. Secondly, they were lacking in combat experience. So as long as they met a level 1 Desolate Hunter, it would be difficult to win. It seemed that when he returned he would have to start training them in this aspect. Of course there were exceptions. In the second batch of matches, one of the Desolate Hunters from the World Society was lucky enough to win against the level 1 Desolate Hunter. In the third batch of matches, Emosher finally went on stage again. His luck was better, as his opponent was still a level 10 Desolate Hunter. Emosher could now defeat a level 10 Desolate Hunter without even using his dragon sense. In the end, other than Emosher, there were still 4 other Desolate Hunters from the World Society who entered the next round. After a few more rounds it was noon. The top 16 had finally been determined. In the top 16, other than Emosher, the rest were all Desolate Hunters. Among the World Society's Desolate Hunters, 4 of them had entered the top 16. At this time the audience in the stands had already seen some clues. The combat strength of the World Society's Desolate Hunters doesn't seem to be very good. Other than 1 or 2 occasionally, the other Desolate Hunters sent by other factions have all entered the top 16. But out of the 9 Desolate Hunters from the World Society, only 3 have entered the top 16. It's indeed a little disappointing. On the rostrum next to the arena, the big shots from the top 10 factions were discussing in low voices. It seems that the World Society's Desolate Hunters haven't been promoted for long. In terms of combat experience and other aspects, they are lacking compared to other level 1 Desolate Hunters. Yes, it's very strange. It seems like they use some method to forcibly promote people with low strength to the level of a Desolate Hunter. There's such a method. I remember that the second hunting island produces a type of night ghost spirit. After absorbing the night ghost spirit, one's strength can be forcibly raised to the level of a Desolate Hunter. However, after absorbing the night ghost spirit and becoming a Desolate Hunter, one can forget about advancing even one step further in their life. But the night ghost spirit is extremely rare, and only one is produced every few decades. It's impossible for them to get 9 in such a short time. So this is what makes people feel strange. As these big shots discussed this, they also secretly made up their minds. If they could get some information about the night ghost spirit from the World Society's disciples, it would be best if they could get some night ghost spirits directly from them. However, they looked at Lu Shuming. After thinking about it, they decided to temporarily dispel this idea. The World Society was now on good terms with the military. If they had any ideas about them, they would simply be courting death. At this time, Lu Shuming was thinking about something else. Chapter 319. While the other big shots were considering whether or not they could get the night ghost spirit from World Society, Commander Lu Shuming was thinking about something else. Others only saw the high level of the World Society's Desolate Hunters, but ignored their leader. The leader of World Society, as a level 5 Desolate Hunter, had challenged several level 10 Desolate Hunters in a row, and could basically kill them all with one punch. This kind of combat power was really rare in the world. At this time, Lu Shuming was slightly looking forward to it. If he were to meet a level 1 Desolate Hunter who could force the leader of World Society to use all his strength, what kind of scene would that be? After resting for more than an hour at noon, the competition for the top 8 was held in the afternoon. Because there were fewer matches, only one match was held each time. Of the 3 Desolate Hunters from World Society who entered the top 16, only one made it to the top 8. Emosher was quite satisfied with this result. After all, for a newly established organization to be able to get such a result was really not bad. Finally, in another match, Emosher's opponent was a woman. The saintess of the School of White Lotus, Mary. In the School of White Lotus, a protector came to Mary's side. He said to Mary in a low voice, the saintess said that this time the saintess must enter the top 8. Mary was wearing a white dress and she looked like a fairy. She looked in the direction of World Society, smiled sweetly and said, "Left Protector, don't worry. No matter how strong a level 5 Desolate Hunter is, I don't believe that he can challenge a Desolate Hunter." The Protector nodded, "I won't pass on the Saintess's words. But a level 5 Desolate Hunter, there is no need to worry. If a level 5 Desolate Hunter can defeat a level 1 Desolate Hunter, then wouldn't the world be in chaos? The Holy Virgin Mary smiled again. She was like a fairy from the heavens descending to the mortal world. Soon after, she floated up and went to the arena. At the same time, Emosure also went to the arena. When the audience below the stage saw Saintess Mary, they immediately became excited. Damn, I didn't notice in the first few rounds, but this Saintess is so beautiful. Nonsense, which of the Saintess of the School of White Lotus isn't beautiful? Go Saintess. Saintess, you must enter the top 8. We can watch you for a few more rounds. The Holy Mother's School of White Lotus is not only good in character, but also beautiful. Each and every one of them is the best in the world. This time, no one mentioned the World Society's leader again. No one even looked at Emosure. After all, in their opinion, no matter how strong the World Society's leader was, this was the end for him. It was already surprising that a level 5 hunter could reach the top 16 in the ring. Why would he need a bicycle? Trying to win by challenging a level 1 Desolate Hunter? Stop dreaming. Take a shower and go to sleep. In the arena, the big shots were not optimistic about Emosure's chances. This is the end of the World Society's Gang Master. This battle should force him to use his full strength. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to fight. The gap between a Desolate Hunter and a Desolate Hunter is like a natural chasm. Even if he uses his full strength, it's impossible for him to win. Lu Shuming's eyes flickered slightly. He was looking forward to seeing Emosure unleash his full strength. Although he did not think that Emosure could win. At this moment, in the audience, other than the 10 or so people from World Society, no one believed that Emosure could win. At this moment, the Saintess was standing opposite Emosure. Under the sunlight, her white clothes were whiter than snow. She floated like a fairy. Her voice rose in spirals. Mary, Saintess of the School of White Lotus, please enlighten me. Emosure smiled and nodded. World Society's Gang Master Emosure. The referee at the side gave the order. If you're ready, you can start. After saying that, he stepped aside. The Saintess did not move. She stared straight at Emosure's face, waiting for Emosure to make the first move. In her opinion, in a battle between a Desolate Hunter and a Hunter, if the one who made the first move made the first move, it would be considered a loss. Emosure did not hold back. On his entire right arm, a genetic weapon quickly condensed. It was a huge axe. The huge axe looked longer than Emosure's height. At its widest part, it was more than 3 meters wide. Then he poured energy into it. The huge axe began to turn fiery red. The shape of the huge axe also changed. On both sides of the axe, a picture of a giant dragon appeared. The blade of the huge axe was a pair of wings of the giant dragon. The dragon's eyes were actually burning with raging flames. Flame Dragon Axe. The next moment, Emosure jumped up. He jumped to a height of 100 meters. Then, the huge axe in his right hand directly smashed towards the Saintess in the arena. The Flame Dragon Axe quickly widened and lengthened. Finally, it reached a length of 100 meters and slashed towards the Saintess. Seeing this, the Saintess was slightly surprised. A mere level 5 Desolate Hunter could explode with such power. But for her, a mere level 5 Desolate Hunter's speed was still too slow. Thinking of this, she moved her feet lightly. She wanted to make a dodging movement that seemed easy on the surface. However, when she moved her feet, she found that her movements were somewhat sluggish. It was as if she was trapped by an invisible force. She frowned slightly. Psychokinesis. This guy was actually a psychic grandmaster. A Desolate Hunter and a psychic grandmaster dual cultivator. With such a surprise, the Saintess' speed slowed down even more. She had no choice but to suddenly move forward and roll. Boom! The Flame Dragon Axe fiercely chopped at the place where the Saintess had been standing. The arena here was protected by special energy, so it would not be damaged at all. But when the Flame Dragon Axe chopped down, the flames soared into the sky, dazzling everyone's eyes. And the Saintess' posture when she escaped was extremely embarrassing. She no longer had the graceful posture like before. Everyone present was slightly taken aback. Damn, the leader of the World Society is so strong. Even the Saintess is in such a sorry state? Did you notice that he added energy to the weapon to attack just now? That's right, he didn't use a genetic weapon to shoot out an energy pillar, but added energy to the genetic weapon to attack. I've never seen such an attack method before. At the same time, the big shots on the platform beside the arena all revealed looks of astonishment. This was because adding energy to a genetic weapon to attack was an attack that even they could not do. Although the desolate hunters could use energy weapons many times, the method they used was still to release energy light pillars to attack. This kind of attack seemed very powerful, but it had a weakness. It consumed too much energy. If it could not hit the energy would be wasted. And according to what they knew, only when one reached the level of a Grand Desolate Master could they add energy to weapons, genetic weapons, and even their fists to attack. This had an advantage. Even if the attack did not hit the energy would still be there and would not be wasted. And genetic weapons, fists, or weapons with energy added would be more than 10 times or even dozens of times more powerful than usual. Chapter 320. When Lu Shuming saw Mo Shi's method of attack, he was also shocked. This method of attack could save a lot of energy for a hunter. However, it was impossible for a normal hunter to do it. Even a hunter could not do it. He was just a level 5 hunter. How could he fight like a Grand Desolate Master? As for the Holy Mother, she was in a different state of mind. The strength of the World Society's leader was so strong. Would Mary panic? If she panicked, would she? After a while, she shook her head and dispelled these ridiculous thoughts. No matter how strong a level 5 hunter was, how could he be a match for a level 1 Desolate Master? She was thinking too much. Above the battle ring, Mo Shi once again swung his Flame Dragon battle axe, and chopped down on the Holy Maiden one after another. After the saint was in a sorry state at the beginning, she was finally on her guard and was no longer panicking. However, when she was dodging, she felt that there was a strong force dragging her back. With her strength, it was not difficult for her to break free from this force. However, there was always this kind of power in her body that made her feel uncomfortable. Moreover, it did affect her speed. This made her a little annoyed. It seemed that if she did not show some strength, the World Society's leader would become more and more arrogant. Thinking of this, she rolled up her wide sleeves. It revealed the jade-white, porcelain-like mechanical arm inside. This mechanical arm, other than being too white and smooth, was different from a real person's arm in all other aspects. Soon a flame burned on the surface of the arm. Her genetic martial art was revealed. It was a 3-meter-long sword that looked like it was carved out of white jade. Even though it was 3 meters long, it did not seem heavy at all. Instead, it gave people a feeling of lightness. Seeing this, the people at the side of the arena started to discuss. To be able to force out a Desolate Master's genetic martial art, this World Society's leader is not simple. Indeed, this is the first time I've seen a hunter who can force out a Desolate Master's genetic martial art. However, that's all there is to it. Once the saint's genetic martial art is revealed, he is basically finished. Yes, after all, there is a difference in realms. At this time, Saintess Mary saw Mo Shi chopping down with his axe again. As she dodged the attack, she thrust the sword in her hand towards Mo Shi. Whoosh! The long sword instantly extended 100 meters and stabbed towards Mo Shi's chest. Mo Shi smiled and his figure flashed. He instantly disappeared. Using Dragon Shadow Step, he appeared behind the Saintess. At the same time, he raised the giant axe in his right hand and chopped down at the Saintess. He didn't have the slightest bit of tenderness for the fairer sex. The Saintess had also sensed this and hurriedly dodged. She had long been prepared to face Mo Shi's telekinesis head-on. But this time, Mo Shi's telekinesis did not trap her. Instead, it drilled directly into her head and attacked her brain. The Holy Maiden suddenly felt a sharp pain in her head. This stinging pain almost made her lose consciousness. When the pain disappeared and she came back to her senses, it was already too late for her to dodge. She hurriedly raised her sword to block. Ding! The sword and axe collided and sparks flew everywhere. Mo Shi's figure flew back more than 100 meters. And the Saintess also retreated more than 10 meters. Everyone present was surprised when they saw this. A single hunter could force a hunter to retreat 10 meters. This was definitely an amazing achievement. Could be bragged about for a month. On the rostrum next to the ring, Holy Mother White Lotus frowned slightly. What's wrong with Mary? She couldn't even handle a level 5 hunter and was forced back 10 meters by the other party. This was definitely embarrassing enough. Although the level of these big shots on the rostrum was not low, none of them were great psychic masters. Naturally, they didn't know that Mo Shi used a telekinesis attack. Lu Shuming was also slightly surprised. At this time, a division commander behind him whispered, "Commander," a soldier behind reported that the leader of the World Society used a telekinesis attack just now. When Lu Shuming heard this, a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. Telekinesis attack. That is to say, in addition to being a powerful hunter, Mo Shi was also a great psychic master. Dual cultivation. His original strength was enough to kill an opponent 5 levels higher than him. This was already a genius among geniuses. Now he was a psychic master. This kid was definitely a good person in his previous life. But everyone didn't know that this was just the beginning of their shock. After retreating 10 meters, the Saintess was about to counterattack. But at this time, Katja, a slight sound could be heard. She was slightly stunned. What was that sound? It sounded very close. Katja, Katja, Katja. Another 3 light sounds could be heard. This time she finally heard the source of the sound. Looking down, she saw that a few cracks had appeared on her genetic longsword. Mary's expression changed greatly. But she didn't have time to react. Katja, Katja, Katja. The cracks quickly covered the entire longsword. The next moment, crash, her longsword was like glass, shattering all over the ground. At this moment everyone was silent. What? How? How is this possible? The Saintess's genetic weapon, shattered. Shattered all over the ground. My worldview has also been shattered. Everyone couldn't believe it. The genetic martial art of a desolate hunter had actually been shattered into pieces by a single strike from a desolate hunter. This was 2F** king ridiculous. Even novels wouldn't dare to write like this. On the rostrum beside the arena, Holy Mother White Lotus suddenly stood up. She looked at Mary in disbelief. Finally her gaze landed on embark. She already knew that this match wasn't simple, but she didn't expect it to be so complicated. A dignified desolate hunter's genetic weapon had actually been shattered by a mere level 5 desolate hunter. This completely overturned her understanding. Of course her emotions weren't mostly shock. Instead it was anger. One must know that genetic weapons were the foundation of a cultivator. Without genetic weapons, a cultivator was considered to be crippled. Now that Saintess Mary's genetic weapon was shattered, even if she was a level 1 hunter, her strength would be reduced. She originally thought that Mary would inherit the position of Holy Mother in the future. But now it seemed that the Saintess's everything was ruined. Thinking of this, Holy Mother White Lotus's heart was boiling with anger. Hatred and anger had long since filled her chest. However, as the Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society, she hid these emotions well in her heart. The Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society had always been kind. Even if the Saintess's genetic weapon was destroyed as the Holy Mother, she had to act like a Holy Mother. Thinking of this, she suppressed the anger in her heart. Then she let out a long sigh. Sigh. Of course this sigh was for the other big shots to see. When the big shots heard this they all spoke out. It's just a competition. There's no need to destroy the opponent's genetic weapon. This embark is too ruthless. Yeah, he doesn't know how to control his strength. Chapter 321. When the Holy Mother of White Lotus heard the words of the elders, she secretly nodded. This was the effect that she wanted. No matter what, the Holy Mother of White Lotus had to stand at the peak of public opinion. This would be of great help to the Holy Mother of White Lotus. Of course, although the elders were discussing embark's wrongdoings, no one dared to speak too harshly. After all, embark was someone who had a good relationship with the military. None of them dared to say too many bad things about embark in front of Commander Lu Shuming. But to the Holy Mother of White Lotus, she had already achieved her goal with that sigh. She knew that the best way to gain the support of public opinion was to influence things subtly and silently. She had to do it bit by bit. At this time, everyone at the scene came to their senses and understood the seriousness of the matter. F***ck, the Holy Mother's genetic martial art was destroyed. This kid is too ruthless. The Holy Mother had been giving in to him. Otherwise, did he think that a mere level 5 hunter could last until now? Who would have thought that this kid would repay kindness with enmity and destroy the Holy Mother's genetic martial art? He's simply a bastard. At this moment embark, who was in the arena, was only looking at the Holy Mother coldly. After the initial panic, the Holy Mother quickly calmed down. Her gaze was cold. You destroyed my genetic martial art. You're too vicious. After saying this, the aura on her body completely exploded. She quickly stepped toward embark. Seeing this, embark still did not have any protective feelings for the fairer sex. He had already plundered the Holy Mother's memories. He knew that although the Holy Mother looked like a Holy Mother on the surface, she was actually a vicious woman in her heart. As long as she seized the opportunity, he would not even know how he died. Hence, once embark made his move, he did not show any mercy. His genetic martial art once again slashed toward the Holy Mother of White Lotus. This time, the Holy Mother of White Lotus's aura completely exploded. Her speed was also much faster than before. Although she did not have a genetic martial art, after dodging Emoshur's attack, she leaped and appeared in front of Emoshur. At the same time, his right leg softly wrapped around the handle of Emoshur's giant axe. As a desolate hunter, she was extremely powerful. With this entanglement, Emoshur's giant axe was unable to move at all. At the same time, a flame covered her left arm. Her wide sleeves were burned to ashes by the flames. His left arm, which looked like it was carved from flower and jade, was exposed. At the same time, her left arm quickly transformed into a 3-meter-long sword. Everyone present was stunned. Another genetic martial artist. So the Holy Maiden is a double genetic warrior. Heavens! This is definitely the most talented Holy Maiden of the Holy Mother's School of White Lotus in the last 100 years. In the arena, those big shots also widened their eyes in shock. It turned out that Mary was a double genetic warrior. Holy Mother by Lianhua once again sighed heavily. Sigh. All the big shots understood what she meant. Originally, a dual genetic martial artist would definitely have a boundless future. As long as she was given another 20 to 30 years, she would definitely be the top existence in Yuzhou. However, now that a genetic martial artist was destroyed by Emoshur, she would turn from a top genius to an ordinary genius. The gap between them was self-evident. In the audience, Happy was also a little worried. Could Brother Emo win? However, Emma was not worried at all. She had seen what Emoshur had done in the second hunting ground, killing thousands of night ghosts with his bare hands. She had already reached the point of blind worship for Emoshur's strength. Now, even if someone said that Emoshur could defeat a desolate master, she would believe it. In the arena, Emoshur saw that his opponent was actually a double genetic martial artist. He was slightly surprised. However, he then smiled. He saw his opponent's genetic martial artist once again pointing at his chest. His left arm was also rapidly changing. In the next moment, a fiery red gigantic dragon-shaped axe condensed on his left arm. Saintess Mary's long sword had just pierced Emoshur's chest. Emoshur's giant axe had already blocked in front of him. Ding! The sword and axe clashed, producing an ear-piercing sound of metal clashing. When Mary saw this, her eyes widened. Everyone present widened their eyes in shock. In the stands, double genetic martial artist. On the main platform, double genetic martial artist. Lu Shuming thought to himself, double genetic martial artist. This was simply ridiculous. As a commander in the military, he had seen too many geniuses. Previously, although Emoshur appeared to be a genius, he was only slightly stronger than ordinary geniuses. However, when he knew that Emoshur was both a cultivator and a spirit master, he was a little tempted. He was even more outstanding than many geniuses in the military. And now, Emoshur revealed that he was a double genetic martial artist, which made him even more tempted. Such a genius, even in the military, was hard to come by even once every few hundred years. When Mary saw that her attack was blocked by Emoshur's other genetic martial artist, she was shocked. She quickly jumped and retreated more than 200 meters. Then she quickly lowered her head to look at her longsword genetic martial artist. Luckily, there were no cracks on the genetic martial artist. However, Emoshur's genetic martial artist was very strange. If she was hit by his genetic martial artist a few more times, her own genetic martial artist might not be able to withstand it. Damn it, he was a level 1 desolate hunter and a double genetic warrior at that. When had he ever been so aggrieved in front of a mere hunter? Thinking of this, she frowned. Since that was the case, she would use her full strength. Thinking of this, the long sword in her left hand suddenly lit up with red and white light. Then, on the tip of the long sword, the red and white light condensed. Shio! A red and white light pillar with a diameter of 10 centimeters suddenly shot toward Emoshur. This light pillar came so fast that even Emoshur could not dodge it. Luckily, he did not need to dodge. He directly blocked with the Flame Dragon Battle Axe. Boom! That light pillar blasted onto the Flame Dragon Battle Axe. A glaring red and white light lit up. Although it did not explode, people were unable to see the situation clearly. However, everyone knew that this time, Emoshur would definitely be sent flying. After all, this was the full-strength attack of a desolate hunter. No matter how strong Emoshur was, he was only a level 5 desolate hunter. However, when the red light dissipated and the situation in the arena was revealed, everyone was once again dumbfounded. They saw Emoshur standing in the center of the arena. Compared to before, his position was only 50 meters back. His giant axe was still on his body. There seemed to be no marks on the giant axe. The defense of this giant axe is too strong. This is too ridiculous. His genetic martial artist can easily shatter a desolate hunter's genetic martial artist. The full-strength attack of a desolate hunter is unable to cause any damage to his genetic martial artist. Chapter 322. It wasn't just the people in the stands who were shocked. Even the big shots were shocked by the sturdiness of Mo Shi's genetic martial arts. Under normal circumstances, the sturdiness of each person's genetic martial arts was different, but the difference wasn't that big. Generally speaking, the higher the level, the sturdier the genetic martial arts. It wasn't uncommon for a desolate hunter to destroy a hunter's genetic martial arts. However, it was rare for a hunter's genetic martial arts to not have any changes under a desolate hunter's all-out attack. Seeing that she couldn't defeat Mo Shi with one strike, Saintess Mary's left arm energy weapon continued to release beams of light. Mo Shi, on the other hand, used his genetic martial arts to block the attacks. At this moment he was in a slightly difficult situation. His opponent's firepower was too strong. She continuously used her energy weapon to attack him. It wasn't difficult for him to block the attacks, but it was impossible for him to counterattack. Saintess Mary kept releasing energy, so much so that only patches of red and white light could be seen in the center of the arena. She couldn't see Mo Shi's figure at all. Of course, Saintess Mary also knew that if this continued, her energy would be exhausted sooner or later. That would be the time for Mo Shi to counterattack. Therefore, she definitely wouldn't give Mo Shi such a chance. At a certain moment, after another energy beam shot out, her energy weapon suddenly changed direction. It no longer shot towards Mo Shi. Instead, she directly stabbed her sword into the ground. Ding! The arena had been reinforced by energy, so it was naturally impossible to pierce through it. However, when the tip of her sword touched the ground, the energy was instantly injected into the ground. The next moment, the ground was quickly frozen. The speed of this freezing was extremely fast, quickly moving towards Mo Shi's direction. Mo Shi originally thought that the opponent's attack would stop for a while, and he would be able to take a breather. He didn't expect the opponent's attack to come so quickly, and it came from below his feet. He only felt his feet turn cold. Then the cold air quickly climbed up his body. His body was directly frozen. He didn't even have the chance to react. Seeing this, everyone at the scene was overjoyed. This is the Saintess' innate skill. She's only a level 1 desolate hunter and has already awakened her innate skill. Amazing. Otherwise, why would they say that the Saintess is an absolute genius? On the rostrum next to the ring, those big shots also looked surprised. After becoming a desolate hunter, there was a chance to awaken his innate talent. However, most people would only awaken their innate talents at level 3 or higher. This Saintess Mary had awakened her innate talent at level 1. She was definitely a genius among geniuses. Seeing that Mo Shi was finally frozen, Saintess Mary breathed a sigh of relief. A hunter actually forced her to use her talent skill, which really made her very unhappy. Then let's end it. Thinking of this, another beam of light started to condense in the genetic martial art on her left arm. Boom. The light beam blasted directly onto Mo Shi's ice sculpture. Of course, in order to maintain the image of the Virgin Mary, she did not attempt to kill Mo Shi. No matter how much he wanted to kill, he couldn't do it in the arena. She had aimed at Mo Shi's shoulder and launched the attack. Since you crippled my genetic martial art, I'll cripple yours too. There's nothing wrong with that. He would first destroy Mo Shi's left genetic weapon. Boom. The left shoulder of the ice sculpture directly exploded. She did not attack Mo Shi's left shoulder again. Instead, she aimed at Mo Shi's legs. Boom. The legs of the ice sculpture were directly broken by the light beam. Then the genetic martial art aimed at Mo Shi's chest. She did not shoot out an energy beam. Her voice rose. I'm sorry you lost. Right at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared behind her without any warning. Then a black claw shadow slashed towards Saintess Mary's back. The Saintess' heart trembled, and she knew that this was not good. It was too late to dodge now. She quickly raised her sword to block above her head. Swish! The Titan Dragon Claw slashed on the long sword. Out of the Saintess's expectations, the long sword did not shatter. However, an invisible force instantly tore the Saintess's shoulder apart. It directly cut off her entire left arm. Swish! This sudden change caused an uproar in the arena. They thought that the Saintess would definitely win. Unexpectedly, the leader of the World Society actually used some kind of special footwork and instantly appeared behind the Saintess. And with one claw, he slashed off the Saintess's remaining genetic martial art. This turn of events was too sudden, and they had no time to react. Most importantly, the aura of the leader of the World Society at this moment was actually more than 10 times stronger than before. He had actually become a level 6 scavenger. Could it be that he had actually broken through during the battle just now? At the side of the arena, those big shots were also surprised. Breaking through during a battle was something that could only be chanced upon and not sought. Although breaking through required an opportunity, the situation in a battle was constantly changing. If one was not careful and was in the midst of breaking through, the other party would have already killed you. And those who could quickly break through during a battle were all top geniuses. Lu Shuming's eyes lit up even more. Why did this little guy always get all the good things? How much did the heavens favor him? At this moment, Emosher took advantage of the Saintess's left shoulder to slash at the Saintess's head again with his sharp claws. Under normal circumstances, slashing off 2 of the Saintess's genetic martial arts would already give him a high chance of winning. There was no need to kill her. But Emosher had plundered the Saintess's memory and knew that she was a kind person with a ruthless heart. Anyone who offended her would not have a good ending. Even if she did not make a move now, after the martial arts tournament ended, she would definitely do something to him. She might even endanger the people around him. Rather than waiting for her to do something, he might as well make the first move and kill her first. And at this moment at the side of the arena, Holy Mother White Lotus shouted loudly, "Have mercy, we admit defeat." As she said this, she had already leaped onto the arena. Emosher snorted coldly. If I let her stay now, would she let me stay in the future? Thinking of this, not only did he not stop. Instead, he also added energy to his sharp claws. The speed of the sharp claws suddenly increased explosively. Whoosh, they slashed straight at the Saintess. Of course, Saintess Mary did not just sit there and wait for death. She rolled to the side in an extremely embarrassing manner and directly rolled away. The sharp claws did not hit her body. However, the area covered by the invisible force was not as small as the surface of the sharp claws. Boom, on the arena that was enhanced by energy. 5 claw marks quickly extended. Each claw mark was 3 meters wide, about half a meter deep, and extended over 100 meters long. And this was because the arena was enhanced by energy, which greatly reduced the damage. Otherwise, the entire arena would have long been destroyed. And although the Saintess was not in the claw marks, however, his entire body was affected by the aftershock of the invisible chi that was released. Rip, the lower half of her body was directly torn apart. Her entire body was broken into 2. At this moment, the entire scene was silent. Chapter 323. The Saintess had been cut in half. The entire place fell into silence at once. No one could react. The Saintess had clearly gained the upper hand and was about to win. How could she have been cut in half in the blink of an eye? Everyone from the White Lotus school of the Holy Mother turned pale. In their belief, the Saintess was invincible. The Saintess was also invincible with the protection of the Holy Light. How could she have been cut in half by a mortal? The Holy Mother, White Lotus, also landed beside the Saintess. Looking at the 2 halves of the Saintess' body, the anger in her heart surged. How much resources, effort, and time would it take to cultivate such a Saintess? In the end, not only had her dual genetic martial arts been destroyed, but she had also been cut in half. Fortunately, with the current technology of the continent and the Saintess' self-healing ability as a level 1 desolate hunter, such injuries could be healed in half a month at most. However, at this moment, the Saintess opened her mouth to speak. She looked at the Saintess with bloodshot eyes and hysterically said, "Saintess, avenge me. Kill him, I want him to die." This hysterical scream stunned everyone present. This was the complete opposite of the image of the Saintess in their minds. What the White Lotus saw was that the Saintess' head slowly tilted to one side after shouting those words. She reached out and found that there was no breath. The Saintess was dead. Logically speaking, such an injury should not have been able to endanger her life. However, her self-healing ability seemed to have failed. She had actually died. In other words, there was something strange about this kid's claws. She suddenly raised her head and looked at Emosher, who was not far away. You killed her?" Emosher nodded. "Yes." Facing the questioning of a level 3 desolate hunter, he was not afraid at all. If this woman dared to attack him, he would have to use the Sea Dragon clone to kill her. The White Lotus aura suddenly surged and pressed down on Emosher. "I already told you to stop." Emo sure felt uncomfortable under the pressure and scratched his head apologetically. I used too much force just now and couldn't control it. You. The Virgin White Lotus trembled slightly. If there was no one around, she would have slapped this bastard to death. However, the school of White Lotus had always presented itself as a bright, righteous, and tolerant sect. Even if the Holy Maiden was killed, she could not use force in public under such circumstances. Emo sure continued. It's normal for there to be casualties in the arena. Then, he ignored the woman and turned to look at the referee. A gulping sound came from the referee's throat as he glanced at the rostrum beside the ring. On the rostrum, although everyone wanted to speak up, when they realized that Emo sure had connections with the military, they could only remain silent. The referee had no choice but to shoulder everything by himself. He clenched his teeth and announced, "World Club Emo sure wins." The Holy Mother of White Lotus revealed a pained expression and said to the disciples of the Holy Mother of White Lotus, "Clean up the body and bury it." A few disciples of the Holy Mother's School of White Lotus hurriedly rushed onto the stage and carried the Holy Maiden's body down. At this moment, everyone who saw this scene from the sidelines was furious. He actually killed the saintess. Too ruthless. The Holy Mother already admitted defeat, but he still insisted on attacking. A person like this should be kicked out of the arena. The referee should kick him out. Kicking him out would be letting him off too easily. That was the Holy Maiden, a genius and beauty. Yet he killed her just like that. He should pay with his life. Pay with his life. In the end, the cries of the spectators converged into 4 words. Pay with his life. Pay with his life. On the stage, Emo sure showed no fear in the face of all the hostile gazes. His gaze slowly swept across the entire arena. If you have the ability, come up and kill me. Those who were swept by his gaze unconsciously lowered their heads when they saw his cold gaze. This was because Emo sure had nurtured Long Wei in the Dragon's Denver. Although he did not release Long Wei on his own accord, he would inadvertently reveal a sliver of it. These humans would naturally feel fear when they saw it. Only then did Emo sure slowly get off the stage. Everyone waited for Emo sure to get off the stage before raising their heads one by one. This kid is too strange. When he looked at me, it actually made my scalp go numb. Yeah, I have the same feeling too. So when he gets on the stage, let's not talk too much. At the same time in the stands, the fallen Feathersword sect master Luo Chinchio was secretly delighted. He secretly told the level 2 Desolate Hunter, "Don't worry. If you go up against Emo sure later, say that you want to seek justice for the saintess." The level 2 Desolate Hunter called Zhao Huan nodded. "Yes, sect master." Luo Chinchio continued, "This kid is a little strange. When you go up against him, use all your strength. You must use all your strength to kill him within a short period of time. Otherwise, as time passes, I'm afraid there will be changes." The level 2 Desolate Hunter called Zhao Huan nodded again. "Yes, sect master." In the next 2 rounds, the World Society's last Desolate Hunter was also eliminated. In these 2 rounds, Emo sure's opponents were both level 1 Desolate Hunters. With his previous experience, Emo sure was able to deal with the 2 Desolate Hunters. Although he could not completely crush them, it was still a piece of cake for him. In the end, Emo sure eliminated the 2 level 1 Desolate Hunters and entered the top 2. These 2 matches gave the audience a clear understanding of Emo sure's combat strength. When Emo sure killed the saintess, some people thought that it was just a coincidence. Some people thought that the saintess was too merciful and didn't kill him. However, in these 2 matches, Emo sure always had the upper hand. Then, in less than a minute, his advantage would increase. Finally, in less than 2 minutes, he defeated his opponent. This made everyone present speechless. A level 6 Desolate Hunter consecutively challenged a level 1 Desolate Hunter and won all 3 matches. What else was there to say? If Emo sure hadn't killed the saintess and caused everyone's disgust, they would probably be cheering for Emo sure. In the end, the top 2 were undoubtedly Emo sure and the level 2 Desolate Hunter from the fallen Feathersword sect, Zhao Huan. Everyone's eyes were focused on the fallen Feathersword sect of the World Society. Happy was a little worried and gestured with his hands. "Brother Emo, can you beat him?" Emo sure revealed a warm smile and rubbed Happy's head. He said, "Don't worry, when has your brother Emo ever lost?" After receiving Emo sure's confirmation, Happy was completely relieved. On the other side, the woman called Zhao Huan had a cold gaze. His eyes were cold as he stared at Emo sure. Seeing that Emo sure was also looking at her, her lips moved slightly. Although they were too far apart and the crowd was noisy, he couldn't hear what she was saying. However, through the movement of her mouth, Emosher could roughly guess that she was saying, "If you dare to enter the arena, die." Chapter 324. When Zhao Huan looked at Emosher, her lips moved slightly. Emosher recognized that she was saying, "If you dare to enter the arena, die." Emosher could not be bothered with her. He said to Happy beside him, "Go back and rest." The battle for the championship would be held at noon the next day. After all, both of them had gone through continuous battles. At this time their energy was probably almost depleted. If they fought at this time, the scene might not be as exciting as when they were at their peak. Therefore, the organizing committee decided to rest for the night and fight again the next day. In the evening, all the factions spread out and looked for a place to set up camp. Emosher led the dozen or so people from World Society to the place where they rested yesterday. In the evening, Emosher and Happy sat at the top of the mountain and looked at the distant horizon. The red sun was slowly setting in the west. Watching the sunset at the top of the mountain was completely different from watching it on the ground or by the sea. The sunset at the top of the mountain seemed to be more beautiful and magnificent. The two of them leaned against each other until the sun completely set. They all enjoyed this moment very much. At around 9 o'clock at night, Emosher and Happy returned to the tent and planned to rest. At this moment, a person came to the tent. This person was dressed in a military uniform and had a straight figure. Emosher had an impression of this person. He was one of the division commanders behind Lu Shuming. The teacher didn't smile or speak harshly. He spoke bluntly. "The commander asked me to tell you that you killed the Virgin and the Saint of the White Lotus Society and angered the public. You have to be careful tonight." Emosher nodded. "Thank the commander for the reminder." The division commander nodded. "I will." After saying that, he turned around and quickly walked out of the tent. After the division commander left, Emosher fell into deep thought. During the martial arts tournament, according to the rules, private fights were not allowed. He originally thought that those factions would not dare to attack World Society in private. However, Lu Shuming said that he had angered the public. Under such circumstances, if any faction launched a sneak attack at night, they would comply with the public's wishes. They would be much bolder. There was no telling what would happen. Thinking of this, Emosher asked Happy to call everyone into the tent. He said, "Rest in the dragon's den tonight." When everyone heard this, they knew that this was no small matter. They replied in unison, "Yes." Emosher took out the dragon cave and moved it with his mind. Everyone was sent into the dragon cave. He placed the virtual sentry tower outside the tent. Then he also entered the dragon's cave. The dragon cave instantly disappeared from the tent as if it had never existed. At the same time, in a military green tent, the division commander came back to report. "Chief, the mission has been completed." Lu Shuming nodded. "Yes, go and rest." The division commander nodded. "Yes." But before he left, he asked again, "Chief, if you value the World Society's leaders so much, why don't we go and help them? I'm afraid there are quite a few sects that attack them tonight." Lu Shuming shifted his gaze away from the document he was flipping through and looked at the teacher. The growth of any genius will experience many trials and tribulations. If we help him too much, the speed of his growth will be greatly reduced. Even if he matures, he will still be far from reaching his upper limit. The division commander nodded. "Understood." He then turned around and walked out of the tent. Lu Shuming retracted his gaze. He stared at the meager information about Emosher on the multifunctional watch. He muttered to himself. There had never been any information about this Emosher before. It was as if such a person had appeared out of thin air. It wasn't just him. Even everyone around him seemed to have appeared out of thin air on the flaming initial continent. Could it be that they really came from another world? However, the military had never stuck to one pattern when it came to recruiting talents. Otherwise, the military wouldn't be so powerful. No matter where he came from, no matter what he had done in the past. As long as he really joined the military in the future, the military would be able to make him a new powerhouse. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. In Emosher's mind, the alarm of the virtual sentry tower suddenly rang in the mind of Emosher, who was sleeping soundly. Emosher immediately connected to the virtual sentry tower with his dragon will. Everything within a radius of 100 kilometers was instantly within his sight. At this time, there were as many as 5 forces that were planning to attack him. About 1 kilometer away from their tent, a force ranked 88th was lurking there. The leader asked in a low voice, "Leader, isn't it a bit too risky for us to make a move this time?" The leader said in a low voice, The World Society is arrogant and actually killed the Saintess in the arena. This has already angered the public. We're following the public opinion by killing them now. It's worth taking a little risk. Another person also said, we have a silence bomb. If we secretly use it on them, they'll be vaporized in an instant. No matter how strong their leader is, he won't be able to resist at all. However, the leader said, it's best if we can get their heads and prove to all the forces that we killed them. Otherwise, even if we kill them, it'll be a waste of effort. That person said again, then we'll use hallucinogens to make them fall into an illusion one by one. Then we'll go in and cut off their heads. The leader nodded, yes, that's what I mean. At the same time, 5 kilometers away, another force was also lurking quietly. Leader, it seems that someone has arrived before us. The leader frowned slightly. If they take the credit first, then our trip tonight will be a waste. Get ready. If they start fighting later, we'll act according to the situation. No matter what, we must get the World Society leader's head. Yes. At the same time, 10 kilometers away, the third force had just come out of the tent. Tonight's matter must be settled in one blow. A few forces have already gone over. However, the World Society will definitely be prepared. When the time comes, it'll definitely be a chaotic battle. We'll follow them first. When they're fighting, we'll get the World Society leader's head and retreat immediately. Understand? Understood. Emosher roughly scanned with his dragon's perception. At this point, there were quite a few people who wanted to harm the World Society. There were as many as 20 forces. However, these forces weren't doing it for so-called justice. There was no justice for adults. There were only benefits. The reason why they wanted to kill him was to destroy the World Society. The only reason was for themselves. After all, as long as they got the World Society leader's head, it would be considered as avenging the Saintess of the White Lotus Society. It would be considered as enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens. Emosher had already expected this, so he wasn't in a hurry. He just secretly took note of these forces. What surprised him was that the Holy Mother of White Lotus Society didn't make a move. However, Emosher knew that it wasn't that the White Lotus Society didn't want to kill him. It was that they were shrewd enough to hide their true intentions deep enough. Chapter 325. Out of the 99 forces, more than 20 of them wanted to kill him. However, Emosher didn't care too much about this. To be honest, with their forces, his sea dragon avatar could kill or injure more than half of them. In addition, there were more than 10 desolate hunters from the World Society and more than 20 mechas operated by the Little Monk, who were equivalent to desolate hunters. Even if more than 20 of them attacked together, what could they do? However, Emosher's real purpose for participating in the martial arts tournament was to get the map of the ancient dragon battlefield and the incomplete dragon vein. Before getting these two things, he felt that it was better to play it safe. Otherwise, if he wiped out more than 20 forces in one go, would the martial arts tournament still be held? Would he still want the reward? Therefore, Emosher just secretly remembered these forces. For the time being, they didn't take any action. At the same time, in the military tent, Commander Lu Shuming asked the division commander next to him, "How's the situation?" The division commander shook his head. The situation is not very optimistic. A total of 27 forces want to attack the World Society. I'm afraid the World Society won't be able to survive. Another division commander asked, "Chief, should we help him?" Lu Shuming shook his head. No, for a genius it's not necessarily a bad thing to suffer some setbacks. Since we've already reminded him, we've done our best. A division commander said with some regret. But it's really a pity if such a genius dies like this. Lu Shuming thought for a moment and said, "You two send people over. It doesn't matter if the rest of the World Society die. If Emosher's life is in great danger, give him a hand." The two division commanders looked at each other and nodded. Yes, Chief. In fact, these two division commanders were also a little surprised. In the past, the commanders almost never participated in the internal struggles of Yuzhou. The internal forces of Yuzhou fought to their deaths. It was their own business. Even if these forces had talented disciples, the chief wouldn't take a second look at them. But this time, in addition to reminding gang leader Emo, he even asked them to lend a hand if necessary. It was obvious that the chief valued Emosher very much. But then again, with Emosher's strength and talent, he was indeed worthy of the commander's high regard. At this moment, the first force had already arrived at the edge of the tent. World Society had set up a total of 3 tents. Emosher happily shared a tent, Emma and her son shared a tent, and everyone else shared a tent. The leader of that faction gestured with his hand, indicating that the dozens of people were divided into 3 groups. Then, under his command, the 3 tents were injected with hallucinogens at the same time. The entire tent was silent. 10 seconds later, under the order of the gang leader, these dozens of people wearing special gas masks rushed out together and rushed into the tent. However, when they entered the tent, they were shocked to find that there was not even a shadow inside. Everyone was stunned. What happened? Didn't you say that they stayed in their tents the whole night? What about the Psyche Master? Come here. The Psychic Master was called over. The gang leader frowned and asked, "What happened?" The Psychic Master's heart tightened and he was at a loss. "I don't know either. When they returned to the tent in the afternoon, they used some kind of method to block psychic detection. I couldn't detect their presence at all." The gang leader thought for a few seconds and cursed. "Damn it. Retreat first." Then he led this group of people and quickly retreated. Not long after, the second group of people also arrived. Like the previous faction, they also failed to find anything. At the same time, 5 kilometers away, the third faction had been listening attentively. What happened? There's no movement. It shouldn't be. Logically speaking, after 2 factions went there, it should be a chaotic battle now. It's really strange. Not long after, the third faction sent a few people to investigate. Soon, the people who investigated came back. Gang leader, World Society's tent is empty. Empty? Yes. Everyone was very surprised. It can't be that the other powers have already quietly wiped out the World Society, right? The people who came back from the investigation shook their heads. It doesn't seem like it. There are no traces of fighting. The gang leader frowned. Damn it, what's going on? At the same time, the other factions who failed to find anything heard that there was no movement at World Society's tent. They were very puzzled. What the hell was going on? It shouldn't be. They also sent 2 or 3 people to investigate. In the end, there were still no traces of fighting. Everyone in World Society seemed to have evaporated into thin air. No matter what method they used, they couldn't find them at all. In the end, all the factions left resentfully. At the same time, in the military tent, the division commander reported the situation to Commander Lu Shuming. "Commander, do you think that the entire world meeting used the wormhole teleportation technology and left at night?" Lu Shuming shook his head. "There's a special restriction on Huichun Peak. We can't use the wormhole transmission technology here." The other division commander was puzzled. "That's very strange. They can't use the wormhole transmission technology, but World Society seems to have evaporated into thin air." Commander Lu Shuming pondered for a while and said, "Maybe it's an independent space." Independent space. Independent space. The 2 division commanders were stunned. Independent space. It only exists in theory. It hasn't been proven yet. In the research of some top scientists in the Flaming Land, they deduced that there were many independent spaces in the universe. Independent spaces could be the fragments of a parallel world after it was destroyed. They could also be the entrances to other worlds. These independent spaces were completely independent of the entire universe. Anything that happened in this universe wouldn't affect the independent spaces. Even if this universe was destroyed, the independent spaces would still be unaffected. But this was just a theory. It had been more than 300 years since the theory of independent space appeared, but no one had discovered an independent space. Even if the ancient dragon battlefield seemed to be independent of this world on the surface, it was still dependent on this world to maintain it. For example, the ancient dragon battlefield was like a balloon tied to the Flaming Land. If the Flaming Land was destroyed, the balloon would be destroyed too. Even if it wasn't destroyed, it would lose its dimensional points and drift in the universe. So strictly speaking, the ancient dragon battlefield wasn't an independent space. Commander Lu Shuming looked at the large pile of information displayed on his multifunctional watch. After a long time he said, "Is there anything that won't happen to Emosher?" Chapter 326. Is there anything that is impossible for Emosher? Lu Shuming said slowly. When the 2 division commanders heard this, they were both stunned. Then they understood. Indeed, as the army commander said, there was nothing that was impossible for Emosher. A level 6 hunter was able to kill a level 1 hunter. Before this, it was simply impossible for it to appear. But it had happened for Emosher. Being both a hunter and a psychic grandmaster, as well as having a double genetic martial art, all 3 of these things, in the past this was simply impossible. However, it still appeared on Emosher's body. The arena had been strengthened by energy. Even a hunter's energy weapon would not be able to destroy it. It was naturally impossible for a mere level 6 hunter to destroy it. However, Mo Sure had forcibly left 5 long and deep claw marks on the arena. It was as if there was nothing that was impossible for him. Thinking of this, the 2 division commanders nodded. Chief is right. Lu Shuming continued. So, I am still looking forward to tomorrow's finals. The 2 division commanders heard this and nodded. A level 6 hunter against a level 2 hunter. Originally there was nothing to see. There was no suspense. However, because this level 5 hunter was Mo Sure, everything seemed to be confusing. From the looks of it, Mo Sure was able to deal with a level 1 hunter with ease. He did not even use his full strength. Then, against a level 2 hunter, it was very likely that he would use his full strength. They were really looking forward to seeing what kind of limit Mo Sure could reach when he used his full strength. That night, the 20 or so factions had worked for nothing. The next day, Mo Sure slept until 10 o'clock before he woke up. He felt completely refreshed. Seeing that Mo Sure seemed to be very excited, he asked in sign language, "Brother Mo, you seem very happy." Mo Sure nodded. "Yes, I had a good sleep last night. Of course I am in good spirits." In fact, the reason why he was happy was not only because he saw the confused expressions of the factions last night, but also because of the most important thing. That was today's finals. He was determined to win the championship, and he was also determined to get those rewards. With a thought, Mo Sure placed everyone back into the tent. He put away the dragon cave. More than an hour passed in the blink of an eye. At around 11:40, Mo Sure led the World Society members into the arena. Everyone in the martial arts arena had their eyes on the World Society members. Those forces that tried to destroy the World Society last night were all dumbfounded when they saw the arrival of the World Society. What happened? Where did they go last night? He disappeared all of a sudden and then reappeared this morning. Are these guys ghosts? What the hell? As for those forces who didn't plan to make a move last night but were planning to gloat, they saw that world will appear. They were all dumbfounded. I heard that there were many forces that went to destroy the World Society last night. Why are they still fine? Could it be that those forces are no match for the World Assembly? It doesn't seem like it. If they really aren't a match for the World Society, they should at least have injured members. But now, no matter if it's the World Society or those forces, none of them are injured. This is really strange. The fallen Feather Sword sect members were slightly disappointed when they saw the World Society appear. They had wanted to send people to destroy the World Society last night. But they heard that many forces had already gone, so they didn't make a move. After all, the most important thing for them was to win the championship of the martial arts tournament. If those forces went, the World Society would definitely be destroyed. Then, their level 2 Desolate Hunters would be able to win without a fight. They wouldn't have to reveal all their trump cards. But they didn't expect the World Society to be unharmed. This was King ridiculous. Luo Chinchio glanced at the leaders of those forces and cursed in his heart. What the hell are you guys doing? So many forces and you can't even destroy a mere dozen people. What a bunch of trash. But then he shifted his gaze to Mo Sure. It didn't matter. Even if these trash were useless, there was still the fallen Feather Sword sect. Later on in the arena, Zhao Huan would kill the World Society's leader in front of everyone. It would be considered as upholding justice. The fallen Feather Sword sect would win the hearts of the people. Not only would they win the championship, but they would also be able to rank in the top 10 in the overall evaluation. 3 birds with 1 stone. Thinking of this, he called the level 2 Desolate Hunter over again. He reminded him, later on in the arena, don't hold back. Kill him as soon as possible. Zhao Huan puffed out his chest confidently. Sect leader, don't worry. A mere level 6 Desolate Hunter is nothing in my eyes. Of course, I won't underestimate him. I won't give him any chance. Luo Chinchio was slightly relieved. He nodded and said, yes, that's for the best. Finally it was noon. Under everyone's gazes, the referee walked up the arena. Unlike the previous appearances, this time the referee acted as the host. The finals of this year's Martial Battle Assembly is about to begin under everyone's anticipation. The first to appear is the most talented young genius of the fallen Feather Sword sect, level 2 Desolate Hunter, Zhao Huan. Before the referee finished speaking, Zhao Huan leaped onto the arena. Although she was a woman, she was valiant and her movements were clean and neat. She had both the gentleness of a woman and the elegance of a man. This immediately caused a burst of applause at the scene. Good. Beautiful. As expected of a level 2 Desolate Hunter. Then the referee said again. The next to appear is the leader of world society. As a level 5 desolate hunter, he has overcome all difficulties and made a breakthrough in battle. As a level 6 desolate hunter, he has defeated several desolate hunters. Mo Sure. This time what welcomed Mo Sure was sparse applause. At the same time, it was accompanied by waves of boos. I really don't know how such a person can make it to the end. He even killed the saintess. He's simply inhumane. Yes, everyone in the White Lotus School has done good deeds their whole life. Even some demonic and evil cults wouldn't do anything to the White Lotus School. But he killed the saintess of the White Lotus School. Such a person really deserves to die. Kill him. Kill him. Avenge the saintess. Kill him. The crowd was getting more and more irritable. Mo Sure, on the other hand, was neither hurried nor slow as he slowly walked into the ring. He didn't care about the curses of the people below the arena. A true warrior dared to face the curses of the crowd. He dared to laugh at this bumpy life. He dared to bear the malice of the world. At most, he would just destroy them. Finally, when Mo Sure walked onto the arena and stood opposite Zhao Huan, Zhao Huan's face was full of disdain. I said, if you dare to enter the arena, die. Mo Sure laughed and didn't say anything. He always liked to speak with his actions. Chapter 327. In the arena, under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, Zhao Huan puffed out her chest and raised her head, looking at Mo Sure proudly. The expression on her face, the gaze in her eyes, and the way she stood, all of them showed one word: disdain. At the same time, she finally faced Mo Sure and said, Brother Sure, I've said it before. If you dare to enter the arena, die. Mo Sure smiled. The last person who dared to speak to him like this had long been buried with grass as tall as a person. However, he did not say anything. He was a person who didn't like to talk nonsense. He would just fight. The referee looked at the time. 12:05. He said to Mo Sure and Zhao Huan, if you're ready, you can start now. As soon as the referee finished speaking, Zhao Huan's aura suddenly changed. She no longer looked like a valiant woman. Instead, she was filled with a tough, powerful, and mysterious aura. She had not condensed a genetic martial art. Since the sect leader had said that she had to make this kid unable to resist, then she would use her strongest move. She scratched the tip of her right index finger with her left hand. A bloody wound appeared. Her right index finger kept moving in the air. As she moved, a blood-red hexagram pattern appeared in the air. In the next instant, flames began to burn on the hexagram. As the flames burned, a spatial door seemed to open in the hexagram pattern. It was pitch black inside the door. When everyone saw this, they looked at the spatial door in surprise. What is this? I've never seen it before. The big shots at the side of the arena saw this scene. All of them opened their eyes wide. Could it be? It can't really be. Didn't they say that that family had already ceased to exist thousands of years ago? When Commander Lu Shuming saw this scene, his eyes also flickered. A division commander behind him asked, Commander, this can't really be that family, right? Lu Shuming nodded. It should be. According to our intelligence, that family didn't go extinct. Instead, they have descendants who passed it down. The other division master also looked surprised. If that's the case, then sect leader Mo is afraid. Lu Shuming nodded. This time, no matter what, he won't be able to create another miracle. The two of you should be ready at all times. If Mo Sure's life is in danger, immediately take him away from the scene. But do it neatly and don't let anyone find out that it was done by the military. After all, the will of the people could not be defied. If people find out that it was us who saved him, I'm afraid no one will listen to us anymore. The two division commanders had serious expressions on their faces. Yes, Chief. At that moment in the ring, a huge figure slowly emerged from the dark space gate. The space door had a diameter of more than 50 meters. But it still seemed a little too crowded. With great difficulty, it squeezed out of the spatial gate. A moment later, he jumped onto the arena. Only then did everyone see its true appearance. A giant ape. The giant ape was about 50 meters tall. Its limbs were thick and sturdy, and its entire body was covered in black fur. The corners of his wide mouth revealed two thick fangs. His eyes were bloodshot. It looked extremely mysterious, yet extremely powerful. When the crowd saw this, they immediately exclaimed, God, summoner. Oh my God, it's really a summoner. Hasn't the summoner clan been exterminated? Hasn't their inheritance been cut off? In the past, I only saw summoners in legends and history books. I didn't expect to see a living summoner today. I didn't come here in vain today. In the history of the Flaming Land there was such a clan. Their clan could use blood to open a channel. From there, they could summon desolate beasts from thousands of miles away, or even tens of thousands of miles away. They could also control these desolate beasts to help them fight. Usually, a hunter or a desolate hunter could summon a desolate beast that was 3 levels higher than their own realm under extreme circumstances. Therefore, every summoner was a powerful existence that could fight at least 3 levels higher. But later, for some reason, this clan seemed to have been wiped out overnight. All the summoners had also disappeared. In the 10,000 years since then, not a single summoner had appeared. Who would have thought that 10,000 years later, a summoner would appear once again? At this moment, everyone looked at Emosher, who was opposite the giant ape. They felt that Emosher was so small in front of the giant ape. Looking at the giant ape's aura, it was very likely to be a level 4 mutated desolate beast, which was equivalent to a level 4 desolate hunter. Emosher was very strong and could kill a level 1 desolate hunter. But no matter how strong he was, there was a limit. In front of a level 4 mutated desolate beast, he was completely an ant. As a result, the crowd was filled with angry, excited, and gloating voices. Kill him. Kill him. Kill him. Some people even couldn't wait to see Emosher beg for mercy. When he begs for mercy later, this summoner must not let him go. Yes, the saintess has already admitted defeat, but he still killed her. When he begs for mercy later, the summoner will not let him go. In the fallen Feathersword sect's seat, Sect Master Luo Chenchio's eyes flashed, full of anticipation. He knew that Zhao Huan could defeat Emosher with his own strength. But to be safe, he still summoned a level 4 mutated desolate beast. This way it would be foolproof. At the same time, he was also glad that when he killed that woman, he left her infant behind. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to obtain such a powerful helper. At the same time, he killed her mother, but she didn't know that after she grew up, she worked for him and even treated him as her adoptive father and was grateful to him. This kind of feeling was really wonderful. At the same time, on the rostrum beside the arena, a group of elders were shocked. They looked at Emosher as if they were looking at a dead man. They all knew the strength of the summoner race from the history books and legends. Now that a level 4 mutated desolate beast was summoned, no matter how strong Emosher was, could he fight against a level 4 mutated desolate beast? Only Lu Shuming frowned slightly at this moment. It's actually a level 4 mutated desolate beast. It seems, if Emosher's life is in danger later, I will have to do it myself. The 2 division masters were secretly surprised. How long had it been since the chief fought? Moreover, the chief had always fought against foreign enemies or desolate beasts. He had never fought for the life and death of a junior in Yuzhou. As an important figure, he followed the natural law. As long as there wasn't too much chaos in Yuzhou, he would usually not fight. But this time he was going to fight for a junior. How could they not be surprised? At the same time in the arena, Emosher saw the mutated desolate beast. The blood dragon's eyes swept over it and instantly saw its level. Level 4 mutated desolate beast. He smiled. How dare he show off his slight skill in front of an expert? Almighty heavenly dragon. Chapter 328. Emosher couldn't help but laugh when he saw the mutated wild beast. It was just a level 4 mutated wild beast. The next moment he moved his mind. In an instant it appeared in front of him. The sea dragon avatar appeared. Its body shape was similar to a giant crocodile. However, there were many barbs on its head, making it look even more ferocious and powerful. It was more than 20 meters long and covered in hard scales. Its 4 legs were no longer attached to the ground. Instead, they supported its body and made it stand more than 5 meters tall. It had a huge tail that looked like a giant beam with 3 sharp blades. A pair of blood-red eyes glinted fiercely. Everyone at the scene was dumbfounded when they saw this. Another summoner? How is this possible? Didn't they say that summoners are extinct? How come there are 2 summoners in one battle? Damn, are you kidding me? At the edge of the arena on the rostrum, the big shots all had looks of disbelief. Another expert from the summoner clan. This is unbelievable. I didn't expect this. Luo Chenchio of the Fallen Leaf Sword sect was shocked. Damn, do you have to do this? This kid is also a summoner? God, are you playing with me? I finally managed to cultivate a summoner and relied on her to shine in the martial arts tournament to raise the Fallen Leaves Sword Sect's ranking. You, on the other hand, have created another summoner for me. At the same time, on the rostrum beside the arena, the big shots all had their own ideas. The Holy Mother of the White Lotus Cult by Lian Hua frowned. She even glanced at Lu Shuming secretly. She saw that Lu Shuming's gaze was fixed on Mo Shi and had never left him. This made Bai Lian Hua frown even deeper. It seemed that it would be troublesome to kill this kid. On the arena, Zhao Huan saw the mutated wild beast summoned by Mo Shi and his eyes flashed with confidence. He didn't expect this guy to be a summoner too. As the saying goes, people of the same trade are enemies. Only people of the same trade have hatred. When people of the same trade meet, their eyes would turn red. Although this kid was also a summoner, the desolate beast he summoned was only about 20 meters long. One had to know that desolate beasts were judged by their size. 20 meters long, even in combat form, it was not that big. Furthermore, Mo Shi was only a level 6 hunter, so the beasts he could summon would at most be level 9. Compared to his own level 4 mutated dire beast, the difference was like heaven and earth. Thinking of this, she pointed at the sea dragon clone and said fiercely, "Tear it apart." When the giant ape heard this, it immediately moved. Its body, which was originally standing upright, was now bent down. He landed on all fours. He crouched low like a cheetah that was about to pounce. Everyone present widened their eyes in shock. From their point of view, the desolate beast that Mo Shi had summoned was far weaker than this giant ape. The giant ape could easily tear apart the desolate beast summoned by Mo Shi. However, in the next moment, something happened that made everyone's jaws drop. Just as the giant ape lowered its body to the lowest point, as if it was about to shoot an arrow, it suddenly turned around. It fled toward the hexagram spacetime portal behind it. Everyone present suddenly felt like they had been F***ed. It escaped? The giant ape actually escaped. What the F***ck is going on? Only Zhao Huan felt a chill in her heart. Her summoned beast was afraid. A creature that could make her summoned beast afraid must be far stronger than her summoned beast. Thinking of this, she looked at the strange creature that was only 20 meters long in disbelief. However, just as her gaze fell on the sea dragon clone, a bolt of lightning was instantly released from the sea dragon clone. The lightning bolt with a diameter of half a meter hit the giant ape. Buzz buzz. The giant ape's body was suddenly covered with electric currents like small snakes. The giant ape let out a wail and fell to the ground with a scream. The sea dragon clone jumped up and instantly pounced on the giant ape. It began to tear the ape apart. On the arena, the smell of blood suddenly filled the air. The scene was so tragic that it was unbearable to look at. In a moment, the giant ape was swallowed by the sea dragon clone. After eating, it still didn't seem to be satisfied. It licked its lips with its scarlet tongue as if it hadn't had enough. Then it suddenly raised its head and stared at Zhao Huan with its blood-red eyes. Seeing this, Zhao Huan knew something was wrong. She quickly turned around and fled. However, the sea dragon clone only took one step and jumped behind Zhao Huan. It swung its long tail. Slap! It slapped Zhao Huan's back hard. Zhao Huan was only a level 2 desolate hunter. How could he withstand a blow from a level 5 mutated wild beast? His whole body was instantly smashed into meat paste by this tail. Everyone at the scene instantly fell silent. They thought that this time Mo Shi would definitely lose. Even be killed. But they never thought that what they saw was the opposite of what they thought. Not only did Mo Shi not lose, but he also killed Zhao Huan in an instant. This was really hard to believe. And some of the desolate hunters who had been defeated by Mo Shi were all secretly scared. The opponent they were fighting was actually an existence equivalent to a level 5 desolate hunter. Fortunately, Mo Shi didn't kill them. Otherwise they wouldn't even know how they died. In the Fallen Leaves Sword Sect, Luo Chenxiu stood up abruptly. His eyes were filled with anger. He really couldn't accept this result. On the rostrum, everyone was also silent. Their eyes fell on Mo Shi's sea dragon clone. The sea dragon clone could kill a level 4 mutated wild beast in an instant, which was equivalent to killing a level 4 desolate hunter. And among them, except for one level 4 desolate hunter, the rest were all desolate hunters below level 3. Suddenly, they realized that the guy they didn't think highly of before was now someone they could look up to. This kid actually had such a powerful trump card. Originally, some of them were still thinking whether they could comply with public opinion and kill Mo Shi. But now they were all afraid because of their previous thoughts. If they really did harm to Mo Shi, it was equivalent to offending a level 5 desolate hunter. Their entire sect would most likely be annihilated. Lu Shuming's eyes flashed slightly. When he saw Zhao Huan summon a mutated wild beast, he had already planned to help Emo Shi when he was in danger. He didn't expect that Emo Shi would also summon a mutated wild beast. And he even killed Zhao Huan's beast in an instant. In the end, even Zhao Huan was killed in an instant. Now, it seemed that Emo Shi's real combat power was actually equivalent to a level 5 Desolate Hunter, the same level as himself. This was really hard to believe. At the same time, Emo Shi had created too many miracles. Telekinesis and hunter dual cultivation. Dual genetic martial arts. Summoner. It was equivalent to a level 5 Desolate Hunter's beast. All of this made Emo Shi seem like a legendary existence. This was simply unbelievable. Chapter 329. After the sea dragon doppelganger killed Zhao Huan, the arena was already drenched in blood and a complete mess. On this bloody arena, Emo Shi's gaze swept over the surroundings. This time, no one below the arena dared to meet Emo Shi's gaze. It was as if they were afraid that they would anger Emo Shi with a single glance. This was a powerful existence with a level 5 mutated wild beast. Wouldn't it be courting death if they provoked him? Emo Shi's gaze finally landed on the referee below the arena. You can announce the results. Only then did the referee come back to his senses, his face a little ashamed. From the moment the first mutated wild beast was summoned, he had already chosen to leave the arena. Until now. This was a little dereliction of duty. But he was also helpless. After all, the strength of these two wild beasts far exceeded his strength. And the battle between these two was far from what he could control. He could only try to stay as far away as possible to avoid being affected by the battle between these two. At this moment, when he heard Emo Shi's words, he wiped away his sweat. Nodding awkwardly, he came to the arena. Jumping over the scattered flesh and blood on the ground, he came to Emo Shi. Then he looked at Zhao Huan's corpse and his gaze returned to Emo Shi. The champion of this martial arts tournament has been decided. World Society's leader Emo Shi. Everyone present was still in a daze. The ferocious mutated wild beast in the arena made them very flustered. Seeing this, the referee smiled at Emo Shi. That. Leader Emo, can you temporarily put away your summoned beast? Emo Shi nodded and moved his mind. The sea dragon clone disappeared instantly. The referee was slightly stunned. This was much easier than when Zhao Huan summoned his beast just now. When Zhao Huan summoned his beast, it was as if he was constipated and took a long time to summon it. And whether Emo Shi summoned it or put it away, it was all in an instant. It wasn't until the sea dragon clone disappeared from the arena that everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. That mutated desolate beast gave off an extremely oppressive feeling. Apart from those who were desolate hunters and above, who were barely able to withstand it, everyone else was terrified. It was as if he was walking beside the mouth of a giant beast. At this moment, the people from the World Society couldn't help but applaud. The little monk put his palms together and closed his eyes. Just like his master, he piously chanted the name of Buddha. Amit Ba Boss is awesome. Emma and Happy held each other's hands tightly. Emma had never doubted that Happy could become the champion. Happy, on the other hand, was constantly on tenterhooks. As the saying goes, concern leads to confusion. During the battle between Emo Shi and Zhao Huan, she had been holding Emma's hand tightly. At this moment, his palms were sweating. Seeing that Emo Shi had won the championship, she finally heaved a sigh of relief. As for the other hunters, they were a little worried. However, they still had some understanding of Mr. Mo's strength. At this moment, it was reasonable to see Mr. Mo win the championship. With their applause, the audience also applauded. However, because Emo Shi had killed the Holy Virgin of the White Lotus Society, he was already unpopular. Now, he had brutally killed a summoner and it was still a woman. This made him even more unpopular. Therefore, the applause at the scene was a little sparse. Emo Shi didn't care about this. They wanted to kill him, but they were not strong enough and were killed by him instead. There was nothing wrong with this. The only thing he cared about was the championship's reward. At this moment, after the referee announced the champion, he turned to look at the 10 big shots on the rostrum. As for the 10 big shots, they looked at each other. None of them seemed to be willing. After all, Emo Shi was unpopular. The 10 of them were unwilling to let Emo Shi obtain the incomplete dragon vein and the map of the ancient dragon battlefield, regardless of whether it was for personal or for the benefit of their own forces. However, they didn't dare to offend the military big shots. Therefore, everyone looked at Lu Shuming. One of the big shots said, Commander Lu, what do you think? Lu Shuming laughed and said, the military's attitude has always been very clear. We are only here to watch the competition. We will not participate in anything related to the competition. When the 10 big shots heard this, they looked at each other again. In the end, the village chief of the corpse village, who was ranked first, said slowly, in my opinion, although Leader Mo is cruel and merciless, it is really worrying to give him the incomplete dragon vein and the map of the ancient dragon battlefield. However, the organizing committee of the martial arts tournament is made up of the senior members of the various sections. We can't go back on our words. Therefore, we can't give him any less of the rewards. However, if the World Congress really does evil in the future and runs rampant like the evil sects and demons, then all of our forces have the responsibility to eliminate them. After that, he cupped his hands to the military and said, if they are too strong and we can't do anything to them, I hope Commander Lu can lend a hand. His words sounded dignified and dignified. Even Lu Shuming didn't have anything else to say. The other big shots were also reluctant to give the rewards to Mo Shi. However, with Lu Shuming here, they didn't dare to go against Mo Shi too openly. The Saintess, the Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society, saw that everyone was reluctant. She took the initiative and said, the village chief is right. Then, let me and the village chief give the rewards to Leader Mo. Everyone was stunned. There was a hint of admiration on their faces. Soon, the referee acted as the temporary host and said, then next, the village chief of the corpse village and the Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society will give the rewards to our champion. Bai Lianhua got up and took the incomplete dragon vein. She tapped the ground with the tip of her foot. Her body was like a cloud as she floated into the arena. She reached out and handed the incomplete dragon vein to Mo Shi and said solemnly, Leader Mo, with your talent, your achievements in the future will far surpass us. However, your murderous aura is too strong. I hope you can restrain yourself and treat others with kindness. If you do, you will definitely become a grandmaster in the future. Seeing this, everyone on the spectator stand was full of admiration. The Saintess of the White Lotus Society was killed, and the Holy Mother wants to give this guy an award. If it were me, I would be lucky if I didn't attack him on the spot. Why give him an award? What do you know? The Holy Mother is using her own actions to influence him. I hope he can walk on the right path in the future. The Holy Mother is really great. Apart from the Holy Mother, I'm afraid no one else can do this. Of course. Otherwise, how can she become the Holy Mother of the White Lotus Society? I love her. I'm a fan now. Mo Shi saw this and sneered in his heart. This woman with this wave of coquettish actions attracted a lot of fans. Chapter 330. Holy Mother White Lotus, under the circumstances that her own sex holy maiden was killed. She actually went up to the arena to award Mo Shi the prize. This naturally attracted a wave of fans. The village chief of the corpse village at this time also held an ancient scroll and jumped onto the arena. He handed the scroll in his hand to Mo Shi. He had never been a person of many words, and now he was facing Mo Shi, this unpopular person. He only said 2 simple sentences, walk the right path, Mo Shi. Mo Shi looked at the prize handed to him by the 2 people, secretly puzzled. These old things on the rostrum, in addition to being stronger than the other, were also more shrewd than the other. Under the circumstances that he had angered everyone, they still gave him such a precious thing. There must be something fishy about this. With Mo Shi's caution, he did not believe that these guys would give him the prize so easily. Even if they were under pressure from Lu Shuming, they would not let him get the prize so easily. Thinking of this, Mo Shi planned to plunder the memories of these 2 people, to see what was wrong. But when his dragon's will probed, intending to plunder their memories, he found that these 2 people's bodies seemed to have spontaneously reacted. This reaction was not a conscious reaction of their own. They did not even know that Mo Shi was going to tamper with their memories. This reaction, when a cultivator's cultivation reached a certain level, their body would produce a self-protection mechanism. When the body encountered some kind of injury, it would automatically resist. So even if Mo Shi had the ability to plunder memories, it was impossible for him to plunder the memories of any strong person. But at this time, the self-protection mechanism of these 2 people's bodies was obviously not strong enough to completely resist Mo Shi's memory plunder. After a slight resistance, they were completely crushed by Mo Shi's dragon's will. Then he plundered the memories of these 2 people. Then he quickly flipped through the White Lotus's memories in his mind. From her memories, Mo Shi saw some things. Sure enough, This woman was not as benevolent and forgiving as she appeared on the surface. Secretly, she was a vicious and merciless woman who would do anything by hook or by crook. In her memories, Emosher saw that she was actually very suspicious of the village chief of the corpse-chasing village. Based on her experience, the village chief of corpse-chasing village was extremely shrewd. There was no way he would give the map of the ancient dragon battlefield to Emosher. Why did he give it to her this time? She couldn't figure it out. However, she knew that there must be some mystery behind this. Emosher then checked the memories of the village chief. Looking at it this way, he could see that this old thing was indeed sinister. It turned out that he had secretly colluded with a few big shots to swap these two items. The two items that appeared in front of everyone were fake. However, Emosher couldn't expose them yet. Because no one had seen these two items before, no one could tell if they were real or fake. Just based on his own mouth, he claimed that it was fake, but these big shots all said that it was real. It was self-evident who these people would believe. Moreover, the village chief of corpse-chasing village, this old thing, had invited the original owner of the incomplete dragon vein. That meant that he wasn't the descendant of that mighty senior. That descendant's surname was Yang. His gaze trembled slightly as he looked at the two items that Emosher had already taken from him. He was slightly reluctant to part with them. After all, this was something that had been passed down in his family for hundreds of years. How could he be willing to give it away just like that? He laughed bitterly and let out a long sigh. Then he turned to Emosher and said, "Gang leader Mo, my family's ancestor said that if we still haven't discovered the secret of the incomplete dragon vein after 500 years, we will donate this incomplete dragon vein to the martial competition as a reward. Only the capable can obtain it. Now that you are so talented, you can be considered a capable person. I hope that you can discover the secret of this incomplete dragon vein." He continued speaking. "The Yang family doesn't have any other requests. If you can really discover its secret in the future, we only hope that you can walk the right path in the future. Don't be bewitched by evil and not lose yourself because of the desire to kill." Emosher looked at this young person and then at the village chief. He took over this young person's memories. He realized that this young person didn't know anything. Everything was being manipulated by the village chief behind the scenes. Emosher sneered in his heart. But on the surface he acted as if nothing had happened. He said to the young person, "Many thanks to the ancestor of the Yang family." Then he said to the village chief and the Holy Mother White Lotus, "Many thanks." The two of them nodded and then left the arena. Emosher looked at the back of the village chief and sneered in his heart. He had just thoroughly checked the village chief's memories and already knew the location where they had hidden the incomplete dragon vein and the map of the ancient dragon battlefield. These two things were hidden separately. The map of the ancient dragon battlefield was in the village. And the incomplete dragon vein was in the second-ranked Tiandao sect. These two forces had colluded with the other three forces and secretly hid these two treasures in their respective forces, claiming them as their own. Of course, they had also promised many benefits to the other forces. Coupled with the strength of the first and second-ranked forces, the other three forces had no choice but to submit. Emosher's eyes swept across the top 5 forces one by one. "Since you were heartless first, then don't blame the world society for being unjust." He quietly hid the cold light in his eyes. Emosher got off the arena. But in his heart he had already sentenced these big forces to death. What righteous sects? What top 10 forces? They were all a bunch of insidious villains. They were not even as good as the so-called diabolism and evil sections. The diabolism and evil sects were cruel, and their cultivation methods were indeed against the way of heaven. But they were the same on the surface. And these so-called righteous sects all appeared to be good people on the surface, but secretly caused trouble for you. They were really more dangerous than the diabolism and evil sections. Next, another big shot came up and gave Emosher a card. He said, "There is 100 million in this card. This is the third reward for you this time." Everyone present was envious when they saw this. 100 million. I'm afraid I won't be able to earn 100 million in my lifetime. You think too highly of yourself. Don't even think about earning it in your next life, let alone in this life. Emosher took the reward without any expression on his face. The audience understood one by one. A mere 100 million is nothing in the eyes of a gang. We can't guess the thoughts of the rich. The martial arts competition came to an end. Emosher led the members of the World Society down the mountain. The other forces also went down the mountain one after another. Only the big shots of the top 10 forces did not leave. A big shot asked the village chief of the corpse village. "Village chief, are you just going to give those two things to him?" Hearing this, the village chief's face was as calm as an ancient well. These two things are like hot potatoes. Chapter 331. The village chief looked at the disappearing north shadow of the world society and slowly said, "Those two things are like hot potatoes right now." When the group of big shots heard this, they all came to a realization. If those two things fell into Emosher's hands, it was inevitable that many people would covet them. Although many forces were afraid of the military and didn't dare to do anything to the world society. But it couldn't be ruled out that some forces would take risks and kill people to steal the treasures. However, a big shot raised another question. Even so, wouldn't it be a pity if those two things end up in the hands of some irrelevant people or even get lost? There was still no expression on the bony face of the corpse-chasing village's village chief. He slowly said, "If that's the case, it's the will of heaven. You must know that the will of heaven cannot be defied." Everyone immediately flattered him. Village chief is wise. The village chief's realm is really something we can only look up to. Village chief, when will I be able to reach your level? The village chief slowly shook his head and said, "I'm just saying. I was just speaking casually. You don't have to take it too seriously." As for the four big shots who were in cahoots with the village chief, they were all secretly admiring him. The village chief looked like an ordinary old man who had one foot in the grave. Any stranger wouldn't take him seriously. But they didn't know that the village chief was the most shrewd among the 10 people and the one they couldn't afford to offend. More than 2 hours later, Emosher and the others left the Netherworld Mountain. "Leader, where are we going now?" a desolate hunter asked. Emosher replied, "Back to the base." The most important thing now was to improve his and the sea dragon's strength as soon as possible. Only by improving his and the sea dragon's strength could he snatch the incomplete dragon vein and the ancient dragon battlefield map. Of course, if he had to take the risk, he should be able to steal it with his concealment and disguise skills. But was he that kind of person? To cheat? To steal? Not to talk about martial ethics. Whatever Emosher wanted, he had always snatched it from others in an open and above-board manner. Whoever dared to resist, he would destroy them. This was his style. Therefore, before going to those two sects, Emosher decided to raise his strength by 1 or 2 levels. Then he would increase the strength of the sea dragon clone by 1 or 2 levels. Many more mechas were manufactured. At that time he would directly crush them. That night, they rested in a city not far from the foot of the mountain. The next morning, Emosher and the other desolate hunters boarded their hoverboards and flew to hunting island number 1. They flew over a snow mountain in front of them and over a small forest. The sky above this forest was often shrouded in fog. When Emosher and the others were passing through the forest, the small monk suddenly said, "Don't worry, boss, there's poison in the fog." As he spoke, he passed the multifunctional watch to Emosher. On the interface of the multifunctional watch, it showed, dispersant 30%. The energy dispersing agent did not disperse the energy in one's body. Instead, it temporarily dispersed the energy in one's body. On the Flame Origin continent, its greatest use was medicine. When treating the injuries of certain cultivators, it was necessary to temporarily disperse the energy in their bodies. At this time, dispersing the energy in the bodies of the desolate hunters behind Emosher was absolutely fatal to them. Who knew how many forces were eyeing them covetously? Emosher turned around and glanced at these desolate hunters. On the surface there seemed to be nothing wrong with them. This was also one of the characteristics of the energy dispersing agent. If the victim did not use his energy, he would not realize that his energy had been dispersed. At this time, hearing the small monk's words, they began to use the energy in their bodies. With this test, their expressions changed one after another. "My energy has decreased a lot. Mine has decreased too. Now mine too." Among all of them, there were only a few who were not affected. One of them was Emosher, who was immune to all poisons. How could he be afraid of this? The other one was Emma. As a vampire, her body was completely different from that of humans. Therefore, the energy dispersing agent had no effect on her. There were also Happy and the small monk. The small monk was a psychic master and had no energy in his body. As a prophet, Happy also had no energy in his body. Emosher shook his head and took out more than 10 bottles of recovery agent. He handed them to these people. He said, "Quickly fly out of the fog and take these agents." Although the effect of the recovery agent was good, even if they recovered in the fog, they would still be poisoned again. Therefore they had to fly out of the fog before taking them. More than 10 minutes later, they finally flew out of the fog and came to the plains outside. The group of desolate hunters followed Emosher's instructions and took the recovery agent one after another. The recovery agent needed about 5 minutes for them to fully recover. During this period it was considered a dangerous period. Emosher used his dragon's psyche to check the surroundings. With this check he found that something was wrong. In the sky, a total of 30 mechas suddenly appeared. These mechas surrounded the people of the World Society and aimed at them. At the same time, more than 20 desolate hunters appeared behind these mechas. More than 20 desolate hunters and 30 mechas. It was equivalent to more than 50 desolate hunters. They looked down at Emosher from their high vantage points. Emosher glanced at them. These people were basically people who had appeared in the martial arts competition. They belonged to various sects and gangs. It was just that these forces were basically ranked below 50. Emosher sneered secretly. It seemed that they all wanted to kill him to improve their rankings. However, the most important thing was definitely the incomplete dragon vein and the map of the ancient battlefield of the dragons. The person in the lead was a young man with greasy hair and a powdered face. With a smile on his face, he looked down at the people of the World Society. Emosher, you killed the Holy Mother and the Holy Daughter of the White Lotus Society. This is against the will of the people and even against the will of the heavens. Today we will kill you and enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. Emosher looked back at the desolate hunters behind him. It would take about 4 minutes for them to recover. However, Emosher was not worried. He looked up and said, with just more than 20 desolate hunters and more than 30 mechas? Before he finished speaking, his mind moved. In front of him, a cheetah mecha appeared out of thin air. Then a second, third, and fourth mechas appeared. There were a total of 20 cheetah mechas. Then there were 15 giant eagle mechas. These mechas were lined up in a row in front of Emosher. Under the sunlight, they were shining brightly. There was a slight breeze in the air. When the desolate hunters in the sky saw this, they were slightly surprised. They had more than 20 forces and only managed to gather 30 mechas. Now the World Society had as many as 30 mechas. This was King ridiculous. However, they were only surprised for a moment. The young man with greasy hair and a powdered face in the sky still had a smile on his face. Well, even if your mechas can offset our mechas, your desolate hunters have all been poisoned by the strength dispersing agent. They won't be able to use their energy in a short period of time. So die. Chapter 332. Emosher faintly smiled when he heard the words of the oily-faced young man. With a thought, the sea dragon avatar appeared in front of him. In the face of absolute strength, what's the use of numbers? When those people saw the sea dragon avatar, their expressions changed slightly. However, that was all. Soon they calmed down. Obviously, they had expected Emosher to summon this mutant dire beast. The youth with oily hair and powdered face said, "You have a level 5 mutant dire beast, but don't we have a level 5 desolate hunter?" As he spoke, the greasy-haired youth took out a teleportation stone. In the next moment, the stone quickly exploded, forming a cross. At the same time, in the center of the cross, a blue and white figure quickly condensed. It was a haggard old man. He looked like he was wrapped in skin and bones. His eyes were sunken into their sockets. The skin on his body didn't seem to have any moisture. It was wrinkled and wrapped around his bones. Emosher looked at this person with the blood dragon's eye. His expression changed slightly. This person was actually a level 7 desolate hunter. He was 2 levels higher than his sea dragon avatar. He was puzzled. If the first-ranked corpse village had a level 7 desolate hunter overseeing it, he could accept it. But now, these forces ranked below 50 actually had a level 7 desolate hunter? This was simply impossible. He directly plundered the memories of those few desolate hunters. After looking through the memories of these people, he suddenly understood. It turned out that this level 7 desolate hunter was really from the corpse village. Previously, the village chief of the corpse village had specially gathered these forces. He had asked them to come and besiege the World Society. These forces were afraid of the World Society's strength. The village chief of the corpse village had sent 10 mechas and the level 7 desolate hunter of the corpse village. These people were full of confidence and wanted to kill Emosher and wipe out the World Society. Emosher's gaze gradually turned cold. Corpse village, it won't be long before the World Society meets you. However, the most important thing now was how to deal with this level 7 desolate hunter in front of him. Emosher had at least 4 ways to deal with such an old guy. However, the other methods were too destructive, and could even endanger the lives of these people. Therefore Emosher said to Emma in her mind, Think of a way to provoke Happy so that she can use her power as a prophet. The last time Happy used his power as a god's prophet, he had suffered a great shock. After waking up, he had forgotten everything that had happened. Of course, it was unrealistic for him to immediately use his heaven's oracle ability. Therefore, someone had to provoke her. At the same time, Emosher ordered the little monk in his mind. Seize their mechas. The little monk's 10 fingers danced quickly on the keyboard as he said, I'm already doing it. It'll take at most 3 minutes. It seemed that the little monk's skill in hijacking mechas had improved again. In order to stall for time, Emosher said to the skinny old man, You must be an expert from the corpse-chasing village. The old man raised his eyelids slightly and spoke in a slightly hoarse voice. You have a good eye. But what a pity. Emosher asked. Pity what? The old man said, It's a pity that a genius like you is going to die in my hands today. Emosher smiled. Who said that I'm definitely going to die? The old man said. I said so. Emosher shrugged and said, What if I can't die? Do you want to make a bet? Ha ha. The old man's laughter was very unpleasant to the ears. I've never bet with someone who's about to die. You don't have to stall for time. It's useless. I'll send you on your way now. As an old fox who had lived for more than 470 years, how could he not know that Emosher was stalling for time? Emosher smiled a little awkwardly and said, You saw through me. But how do you know that stalling for time is useless? Maybe it will be useful? At the same time behind Emosher, Happy was holding Emma's hand nervously, her eyes full of worry. It was as if she was asking, Sister Emma, are these people strong? Emma said, They're very strong, especially that old man. He should be a level 6 or even level 7 desolate hunter. If he goes all out, not only will we be finished but boss might not be able to escape either. Happy became even more nervous and gestured. Brother Emo is so powerful. He must have a way. Emma laughed bitterly and shook her head. Boss is powerful, but since these people dared to come, they must have planned everything. Especially that skinny old man. He's already got boss. When Happy heard this, his body trembled slightly due to nervousness and worry. Emma continued. Happy, you don't want to see me die, right? Happy shook his head. Emma said again, You don't want to see boss die either. Happy nodded. Emma said, So, Happy, try to make yourself angry. Think about how this person will kill all of us. He will kill boss. At that moment, Happy's body trembled even more violently. The darkness in his eyes had already begun to sway. Seeing that it was effective, Emma continued. Now, among all of us, only you can stop him. If you can't stop him, then he will kill boss. He will twist boss's head off and dismember boss's limbs. Boss's blood will run dry, and no one will be able to collect boss's corpse. Perhaps it won't be long before boss is eaten by a passing desolate beast. Of course, it's more likely that these people will bring boss's corpse back to receive a reward. Their masters will hang boss's corpse on the city gate and let the wind blow on the rainforest and the sun shine on it. They will write up thousands of crimes for boss. The passers-by will curse boss. At this point, Happy's body was no longer trembling. The darkness in her eyes had completely disappeared. Only the whites of her eyes remained. However, she still did not move. Emma was also thinking about the key point. Boss was still stalling for time and the old man seemed to be getting impatient. At the same time, the young monk's eyes lit up. He spoke to Emosher in his mind. Boss, it's done. Emosher also knew that the old man was about to make his move. If he made his move, then no one present would be able to survive. When he heard the young monk's voice, it came at the right time. He immediately opened his mouth to speak to the old man. Do you really think you can kill me? All mechas attack. In the sky, those people hurriedly got into a defensive posture when they heard this. However, out of all their expectations, the 30 mechas of the world society did not move at all. After a full 5 seconds, they still did not move. Those people were a little puzzled. Someone laughed. What's wrong? Your mechas are not listening to you? As soon as he finished speaking, whoosh, a beam of light suddenly shot out from the mecha beside him. It instantly hit the head of the desolate hunter. Emosher laughed. It's your mechas that are not listening to me. Chapter 333. The people from the various forces in the sky were extremely shocked. The mechas they brought with them were actually attacking them. Whoosh 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 whoosh. In just 2 seconds, 5 or 6 desolate hunters were killed. Although the desolate hunters could dodge the light beams shot out by the mechas, They didn't expect that the mechas they brought would suddenly betray them. If they reacted a little slower, their heads would be shot. They fell from the sky one after another. There were more than a dozen mechas that were shooting at the old man from the corpse village. However, the old man from the corpse village was not only fast, but his reaction was also fast enough. His body flashed lightly and he avoided the light beams. Then he flew in front of the keyboard player and asked, "What's going on?" The keyboard player looked at a bunch of random codes on the screen. His back was already soaked in sweat. "I don't know. Our mechas seem to have been hijacked." The old man from the corpse village frowned. He didn't care about the mechas of the other forces. What he cared about was the 10 mechas of the corpse village. After all, these were all shining silver. One less was equivalent to losing hundreds of millions. He was a level 7 desolate hunter, but he still lost hundreds of millions. Where would he put his old face? Can you think of a way to get it back? Whoosh! Before he finished speaking, the keyboard player's head had already been shot through. It seemed that it was impossible. Seeing this, the skinny old man was instantly furious. After dodging the attacks of more than a dozen mechas, he glanced at the world society. He saw the little monk operating on the keyboard. He immediately controlled the hoverboard under his feet and was about to fly toward the little monk. But at this moment, a thick electric current with a diameter of 1 meter shot straight toward him from the sea dragon clone. No matter how fast he couldn't be faster than lightning. Whoosh whoosh, streaks of electricity instantly crawled all over his body like little snakes. The pain in his body caused him to slow down a little. At the same time, the sea dragon clone opened its mouth. Squeak, a sharp whistle was heard. Rings of sound waves spread out along with the old man. The old man felt as if every organ in his body was about to explode. The old man's speed slowed down a lot. At the same time, Mosher's dragon will also attack the old man's brain. The old man felt a sharp pain in his head and finally stopped. Right at this moment, whoosh 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 whoosh, several beams of light pierced through the old man's body. Ah! The old man opened his mouth and roared angrily. A shiny saliva hung between his upper and lower teeth. In his roar, the saliva was like a clothesline blown by a hurricane, shaking violently. He was not angry because of pain but because he felt insulted. He was a dignified level 7 hunter. These people were completely as insignificant as ants in front of him. He thought that he could kill him with a flip of his palm. But now not only did he fail to kill it, he was even injured. What a great humiliation. It was a great humiliation. In his anger he no longer had any scruples. He tore off the sleeve of his right arm. It revealed a thick mechanical arm inside. Although his body was skinny, this mechanical arm was twice as thick as the one he was looking for. Soon, the flames burned and his genetic martial art condensed. This genetic martial art was in the shape of a fist. It was just that this fist was at least 10 times bigger than a normal person's fist. And with the addition of energy, the fist could no longer expand. But now, in his anger, he did not add energy to the genetic martial art. Instead, he directly used the strongest form of the genetic martial art, energy weapon. At this moment, whether it was the people of world society or the people of other factions, they all saw a red and white light condensing in front of the old man's energy weapon. Their expressions changed greatly. They could not imagine how powerful the energy weapon of a level 7 hunter was. The only thing they could do was to run. The scene suddenly became chaotic. The people in the sky fled in all directions. After all, the full power attack of a level 7 hunter was not something they could withstand, even if it was just the aftermath. On the ground, the people of world society had changed their expressions, but they did not run. Because Mosher was still in front of them. Since Mosher did not run, they did not need to run. In the sky, the old man's face had already revealed a sinister smile. Why not running? Do you think that no matter how you run you will still die? That's the right way to think. All of you must die. At this moment, at the moment when the energy in his energy weapon was about to be released, a voice suddenly sounded. This voice was not loud, but in this chaotic battlefield, everyone could hear it clearly. Die. The next moment. Crack. A crack suddenly appeared on the genes of the old man without any warning. The energy that was about to be released could not be released. But the energy had already gathered in the genetic martial art and could not be released. It could only explode. Boom! The entire genetic martial art of the old man exploded. His right shoulder exploded into a cloud of blood mist. The right side of his face was blasted into a mess of flesh and blood. Originally, if this was all, he could at least keep his life. But this was not the end. Crack, crack, crack. Countless cracks began to appear on his body. Through the cracks, one could see the bright red flesh and pale white bones inside. Soon, the cracks covered his entire body. In the end, his body shattered into pieces the size of sand. The next moment, his entire body flowed down like a sand sculpture. Seeing this scene, the people who were running in the sky were all shocked. What's going on? Oh my God, this is... And on the ground, when everyone saw this scene, they were all overjoyed. Heaven's speaker had returned. Emosher turned around to look. At this moment, Happy raised his head and looked at the sky. There was not a trace of black in his eyes. Even his pupils were white. It looked a little strange, but it also gave people a mysterious feeling. Happy did not look at Emosher. Instead, he looked at the two people who had already escaped 5 kilometers away. His lips opened slightly and his voice was not loud. Die. But this voice entered everyone's ears, as if it was a voice that came from the bottom of their hearts. Looking at the two people in the sky again. His body was also constantly cracking and cracking. In the end, they flowed down like sand sculptures. Seeing this, Emosher was slightly stunned. Last time, Happy could only kill one person at a time. This time he could actually kill 2 people at a time. It seemed that Happy's ability had increased again. Die. This time it was 3 people. Die. This time it was 5 people. Die. 10 people. Chapter 334. Die. 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 Accompanied by the word die, the hunters from those forces turned into sand sculptures one by one. They flowed down from the sky. In the beginning they died one by one. Then there were 2, 3, 5. Then 10. Those people were dumbfounded and terrified at first. In the end, their faces were filled with horror. Because they had all reacted. The Oracle. What they encountered was the legendary Heaven's Oracle. Once the word was spoken, everything was destroyed. This was the Oracle. Only now did they understand that the most terrifying person in the world society was not their leader. It was this girl who looked pure and beautiful. Her eyes seemed to be able to speak, but she had never opened her mouth to speak. They all regretted it in their hearts. They were so regretful that their intestines had surpassed their master. If they had known this would happen, they would not have been given 10 mechas and a level 7 desolate hunter. Even if they had been given 10,000 mechas and a level 7 desolate hunter, they would not have dared to come. After all, the Oracle was an existence that could kill any enemy regardless of their level. Not to mention humans like them, even heavenly gods were powerless in front of a Heaven's Oracle. After all, gods were created by the Creator. And the Oracle was a product of the Creator's mistake. The Oracle would not abide by any laws of physics, natural laws, or the laws of the universe. If they said they wanted you to die, you had to die. No one could stop them. They were just that unreasonable. In less than 10 seconds, the sky was completely silent. All the 20-odd people had turned into sand sculptures and flowed down. At this time, Happy could kill 10 desolate hunters at once. Seeing this, Emosher's scalp went numb. And this was obviously far from Happy's limit. He could only kill 10 desolate hunters at once because there were only so many people here. If more forces came to attack, no one knew where Happy's limit was. At this time, Emosher looked at Happy with the blood dragon's eye. Race, Oracle, level, 2, ability, die. Happy's level had reached level 2. A level 2 Oracle was already so terrifying. It was hard to imagine just how terrifying of an existence Happy would become when he reached a higher level in the future. At that moment, once everyone was killed, Happy seemed to have used up all his strength. His body fell weakly to the ground. Emosher quickly hugged her. Happy? Happy did not react. Emosher used his dragon will to check on her and found that her bodily functions were all normal. Only then did he feel relieved. With a thought, he sent Happy into the dragon's cave. Then he said to the crowd, "Back to the base." At this time, the energy in everyone's body had almost recovered. Following Emosher, he stepped on the hoverboard and flew in the direction of Hunting Island 1. Emosher complained that they were too slow. He said, "I'll go back first. Follow me later." In fact, if he wanted to, all he had to do was put these people into the dragon cave, and he could bring them all back. However, these people needed to grow. He couldn't protect them all the time. If that was the case, how could he still be the boss? Forget about being a father. After giving his instructions, Emosher used his dragon shadow step, which had reached the large success stage. He traveled 100 kilometers in a second and kept teleporting. In less than 20 minutes, he teleported back to the base. After settling Happy down, Emosure stayed by Happy's bedside. Until 2 days later, Emma, the little monk and the other hunters came back. It was only then that Happy woke up and Emosure sighed in relief. Just like the last time, Happy still could not speak after waking up. Furthermore, he had completely forgotten about what had happened before. Emosure took out a bottle of recovery potion and said, Happy, be happy. Drink it and you'll recover faster. Happy nodded obediently. After drinking the recovery potion, she gestured. Brother Emo, did I kill again? Emosure smiled, rubbed Happy's head and said, You killed all the bad guys. Besides, you protected me, Emma and the others. Without you, it would have been very difficult for us to come back safely this time. When Happy heard that, he smiled happily. Her smile was as bright as the sun and was very infectious. She continued to gesture. Brother Emo, then I will always protect you in the future. Emosure shook his head. Every time you use the ability of the Oracle, you will faint for 2 or 3 days. It should be said that the ability of the Oracle is very harmful to my body. So if you can avoid using it, try not to use it. Happy nodded obediently. Wuxia Corpse Village. The village chief had returned to Corpse Village through the wormhole teleportation device. At this time, the higher-ups of several forces came to see him. The village chief was slightly impatient, but he still let them in. When the higher-ups saw the village chief, their expressions were not very good. Village chief, it has been 2 days. The disciples we sent to ambush Emosure have not responded. Hearing this, the village chief's sunken eye sockets revealed a slightly surprised expression. Previously, he had asked an elder of Corpse Village to follow these people to ambush Emosure. In his opinion, that elder was a level 7 desolate hunter. With the help of other desolate hunters and more than 30 mechas, he could easily defeat Emosure. There was no problem in taking down the World Society. In addition, that elder did not like to use multifunctional watches. So in the past 2 days he did not pay much attention to this matter. Unexpectedly, there was still a problem. He asked, Can't you contact the disciples of the various forces? The higher-ups of the various forces nodded. We can't contact them no matter what. It has been 2 days. We can't contact them no matter what. The village chief pondered for a moment and asked, Have you checked the ambush site? Everyone nodded. We have all been there. There are no traces of fighting there, nor are there any traces of the ambushers we sent. There are only traces of the people from World Society resting there. The village chief of Corpse Village was shocked again. Logically speaking, with the elder of Corpse Village holding the fort, there should not be any problems. He hurriedly called a few juniors in the village and 3 level 6 desolate hunters and ordered, Let's go. No matter what, we must investigate this matter. The few of them quickly replied, Yes. After these people left, the village chief looked at their backs and felt regret in his heart. That was 10 mechas and a level 7 desolate hunter. If something really happened, their corpse-chasing village would suffer a great loss this time. After all, even in Corpse Village, a level 7 desolate hunter was the top existence. After losing a top combat force, Corpse Village's strength dropped a lot. Despite this, Corpse Village's strength was still the best in Wuxia. But falling was not as good as rising. Chapter 335. After Happy recovered, Emosure planned to increase his and the sea dragon's strength. The old man sent by the Corpse Village was a level 7 desolate hunter. This made him feel a great sense of danger. Although he had many trump cards, the price of each one was too high. As for Happy the Oracle, he could not let her use her ability casually. After all, every time she used her ability, it would cause her great harm. Even if she took a recovery potion, it would take at least 10 days for her to fully recover. Therefore, he had to increase his strength as much as possible so that he could crush other forces. To increase his strength, he did not need to go too far. There were many wild beasts in the sea around the first hunting island. There were wild beasts from level 1 to level 10. This morning, Emosure came to the southern coast. After flying for about 10 minutes, he found that level 7 and level 8 wild beasts had begun to appear in the sea below. Only then did he stop. With a splash, he plunged into the sea. He used his telekinesis to block the seawater. No seawater could get close to him within 10 meters. Not long after he entered the sea, a level 7 wild beast was already swimming toward Emosure. Emosure took a closer look. This level 7 wild beast was not an ordinary one. It was a level 7 wild beast that was quickly upgraded after being infected. Now that he was facing a level 7 wild beast, Emosure did not need any skills or tactics. He just threw a punch. Bang, poof, the level 7 wild beast exploded. Emosure used its flesh and blood to create a virus doppelganger. Then he let this virus clone take his personal reservoir to the deeper parts of the sea. There were powerful mutated wild beasts and above there. The sea dragon clone was left there to be free to do whatever it wanted. He believed that it would not take long for its strength to increase. After Emosure blew up the level 7 wild beast with a punch, the smell of blood continued to spread. Soon it attracted the other wild beasts around. These wild beasts immediately surrounded him. Emosure did the same as before in the second hunting ground. He still used his dragon's telekinesis to block out the extra wild beasts. However, there weren't just 10 desolate beasts within the dragon wool barrier. There were only 2 of them. The higher the level of a desolate beast, the more likely it was to have strange abilities. Without understanding these desolate beasts, dealing with 10 of them at once was simply courting death. Even Emosure would have a hard time dealing with it if he didn't use energy. At this moment, the 2 desolate beasts attacked Emosure from the left and right. The body of one of the desolate beasts was constantly flashing with electricity. On the other desolate beast's thick tail, there was a 1-meter-long spike that was as thick as a thigh. The spikes were dark purple in color. It was obvious that there was poison on them. It swung its tail. Whoosh, a sharp spike shot towards Emosure. Emosure dodged to the side, dodging one of the spikes. But the second spike shot over. Then there was the third one, the fourth one, and it was endless. Emosure used Dragon Shadow Step and arrived behind the desolate beast's tail in 1 step. His left hand grabbed the desolate beast's tail while his right hand clenched into a fist. He threw out a punch. Bang! The desolate beast's tail was instantly broken. Ayo, see, that desolate beast let out a frightened and angry roar. It turned around and its huge pincers were about to clamp down on Emosure. At the same time, the other desolate beast kept extending its tentacles, trying to grab Emosure. Emosure dodged to the side, dodging its claw. At the same time, he dodged to the abdomen of the desolate beast with spikes. He punched through its energy bubble with a single punch. That desolate beast immediately fell to the ground, motionless. Emosure dodged again and appeared in front of the desolate beast with electricity. He then kicked the desolate beast's energy bubble. Bang! A huge force was transmitted from Emosure's foot to the desolate beast's abdomen. Although it was separated by a thick layer of fat, the desolate beast's energy bubble was still shaken violently. It looked like it was about to burst. The desolate beast with electricity roared in pain and lowered its head to attack Emosure. But its agility was far from Emosure's. And its body was more than 100 meters long. It was impossible for Emosure's dragon wool barrier to completely contain it. Most of its body was in the sea, so its agility was much lower than Emosure's. Emosure dodged its attack and attracted its attention. Then he used Dragon Shadow Step to dodge again. He kicked its abdomen. Bang! This time, although its skin was still intact, the energy bubble in its abdomen had already burst. A huge amount of energy quickly leaped out of the energy bubble and flowed through its body. Bang 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 bang, its body actually began to self-destruct. Bang 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 bang, in the end it exploded into a huge pool of blood. Within half a kilometer all the seawater was dyed red. Phew, Emosure exhaled slightly. Challenging 2 level 7 desolate beasts above his level was indeed a little troublesome. However, the notification that appeared in his mind made him feel good. Killed 2 level 7 desolate beasts with your bare hands. Obtained 14 drops of Titan Dragon blood. Actually, there were many people in this world who were not afraid of hardship or tiredness. What they were afraid of was that after toiling for half a day, they would end up with nothing. But Emosure was not worried about this at all. Every time he killed a desolate beast, Titan Dragon blood would enter his account. And other than the Titan Dragon blood, he also received evolution points. This was very good. He checked his evolution points in his mind, 30 billion. Ever since the last upgrade, Emosure had asked the system. The next upgrade required 100 billion evolution points. It was still very early. Next, Emosure continued to kill these level 7 desolate beasts in this sea area. For half a month, Emosure had been fighting in this sea area. At first he only dealt with 2 level 7 desolate beasts at a time. Gradually, as he became more familiar with these desolate beasts, the number of desolate beasts he dealt with increased to 3, 4, 5. Facing desolate beasts 1 level higher than him, he could not deal with 10 at a time like before. But this was already very shocking. If other people saw Emosure's current battle, their jaws would definitely drop. fighting above his level with his bare hands. This was already shocking enough. But he did not even use energy. He was a complete pervert. In half a month, Mo Sure had already cleared all the level 7 desolate beasts within 100 kilometers. His level had also finally broken through to a level 7 desolate beast hunter. At the same time, the sea dragon clone had also risen from a level 5 desolate beast to a level 7 desolate beast in this half a month. But Mo Sure knew that this was not enough. If he wanted to crush the corpse village, his strength still needed to continue to improve. The sea dragon clone also needed to continue to improve. At the same time, there should be more mechas in the base. Chapter 336. The major factions in Yuzhou did not stay idle either. First, the Yuzhou officials updated the ranking of the major factions. The World Society squeezed out the White Lotus School and entered the top 10, ranking 10th. This attracted the attention of almost everyone in Yuzhou. On the internet, people kept exclaiming, "World Society? What faction? I've never heard of it before." Yes, not only have I never heard of it before, but I've also searched for information on the World Society. It says that the World Society did not exist before the martial arts competition. In other words, they are a newly formed faction. It's already shocking enough for a new force to make it into the top 100. They can actually fight their way into the top 10. What do they have? Some people who knew the truth came out and replied, because they have at least 11 hunters and a summoner who can summon a level 5 mutated desolate beast. As soon as this statement came out, there were countless comments below. 11 desolate hunters? Are you serious? F***CK, 11 hunters and a summoner who can summon a level 5 mutated beast. With such strength, it shouldn't be a problem for them to enter the top 5. Why are they only ranked 10th? That's why it's not credible. Some people who knew the truth came out again. What do you know? Didn't you see the word, tentative, behind their ranking? They had only sent 15 people to the martial arts assembly. Among these 15 people, there were 11 desolate hunters. Therefore, no one knew how many desolate hunters there were among the gang members who did not go. Plus, their gang leader won the championship. Therefore, it's a bit unfair for them to be ranked 10th. I see. Wait, am I the only one who noticed the summoner? Is there really a summoner? It must be fake. Didn't they go extinct long ago? If there really is a summoner, it's impossible that there hasn't been any news about it for thousands of years. Therefore, many people began to doubt the authenticity of the summoner. However, some people who were at the scene immediately released pictures and videos. In the video, Mo Sure was controlling the summoned beast to attack another mutated desolate beast. Because the video was too bloody, some parts were censored. Of course, there were still some trolls who thought that the video was fake. But soon, someone refuted. If it's fake, how can the officials rank the World Society in the top 10? Can you use your brain? With this kind of IQ, I'm afraid he'll have to say goodbye to the internet in the future. I was there at the time and there were more than 10,000 people there. So many people took videos and photos. It can't be that everyone's photos are fake. At the same time, professionals quickly gave their analysis results. Just now, I've asked a professional team to evaluate the video. The results show that the video is real. This instantly silenced many people. Of course, there was nothing that a troll wouldn't shoot. Do you think I'll believe you just because you say you're a professional team? And even if you are really professionals, who knows if you have an affair with the person who made the video? That's right. Nowadays, on the internet, people are fake, things are fake, and feelings are fake. Everything is fake. I don't F***King believe that there really is a summoner. The two sides were arguing so fiercely that even the government came out to speak. The official of Yuzhou province released a 5-minute video. In the video, it showed how the two summoners summoned the mutated desolate beasts and how they fought. Everything was crystal clear. This time, most of the haters shut up. After all, the official video was still very convincing. However, there were always some haters who were skeptical of everything. The official video might not be real. It's not like the official video hasn't been fake before. These people could no longer be called haters. They were haters. They were haters for the sake of haters. In their eyes, there was nothing they couldn't do. If you did bad things, they could slander you. If you did good things, they could also slander you. If you didn't do anything, they could still morally kidnap you. Even if you couldn't take care of yourself and didn't want to live anymore, they could still slander you. However, at this point in time, there were very few brainless haters like this. At the same time, in the headquarters of Yuzhou province's military, Liu Shuming had already submitted the report about Mo Shi. In the past, the reports that were submitted had to go through layers of review and approval. Basically, it would take a month for a reply. But this time the approval was given in just half a month. Get Mo Shi to join the military at all costs. When Liu Shuming saw this reply, he smiled bitterly. If he could really get Mo Shi to join, wouldn't he have joined long ago? Based on the last time he met Mo Shi, it was basically impossible to get Mo Shi to join. However, a soldier's duty was to obey orders. The higher-ups only needed to issue orders. If he couldn't fulfill them, then he was incompetent and had neglected his duty. It seemed that he had a long way to go before he could let Mo Shi join the military. Fortunately, people's thoughts were not static. Perhaps after a period of time, Mo Shi's views would change after experiencing certain things. Thus he needed an opportunity. At the same time, the powers that had attacked Mo Shi had basically gone into hiding. Each of them had at most 2 or 3 desolate hunters. When they had attacked world society, their desolate hunters had suddenly disappeared. They had most likely been killed by world society. For these powers, this was definitely a huge blow. Under such circumstances, they didn't dare to leak this matter. If other powers knew that they had lost a desolate hunter, they might take the opportunity to attack them. Previously they had wanted to kill Mo Shi to raise their ranking. But now, not only had they failed to raise their ranking, they had also lost a desolate hunter and a few mechas. This was really like trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice. As for the other powers led by Corpse Village, they had been very quiet these days and hadn't made any moves. Corpse Village had lost a level 7 desolate hunter. This was a huge blow to them. As for the other major powers, it was because they all looked up to Corpse Village. Since Corpse Village hadn't made any moves, they naturally wouldn't make any moves either. As for the White Lotus Society, although they didn't know about this news, they were still very familiar with the top 10 powers. Given the character of the top 10 powers, they would definitely make some moves now that Mo Shi was out of the picture. Since they hadn't made any moves, something must have gone wrong. Since they didn't know what the problem was, it was best for them to bide their time. Wait and see. In this way, Mo Shi and world society would have some time to develop. Chapter 337. The forces in Yuzhou didn't dare to act rashly. The first-ranked Corpse Village had lost a level 7 desolate hunter and 10 mechas, so they needed to recuperate. In addition, they needed to study the secrets of the incomplete dragon vein. Therefore they wouldn't act for the time being. The second-ranked Tiandao sect wanted to study the map of the ancient battlefield. Naturally they wouldn't act either. Seeing that these two forces didn't act, the other forces naturally wouldn't act either. In this way it gave Mo Shi a great opportunity to develop. At this time Mo Shi was still killing these desolate beasts at the bottom of the sea. Now that he was a level 7 desolate beast hunter, the benefits of hunting level 7 desolate beasts weren't that great. Therefore he left the sea area and went deeper into the sea to hunt level 8 desolate beasts. Level 8 desolate beasts were naturally more difficult to deal with than ordinary level 7 desolate beasts. Therefore, Mo Shi still only let 2 level 8 desolate beasts in at the beginning. Even so, he seemed to be struggling. Of course, this was only because he didn't use any energy. If he went all out, with his current strength he had no problem crushing a level 1 desolate hunter. Even if he faced a level 2 desolate hunter, he would have a 50% chance of winning. A level 7 desolate hunter on par with a level 2 desolate hunter. This was extremely rare even in the history of the Flaming Origin continent. As time passed, Mo Shi killed these level 8 desolate beasts faster and faster. He estimated that in another 2 to 3 months, he should be able to advance to a level 8 desolate hunter. By then the Sea Dragon clone would advance to a level 8 desolate beast. Even if he faced any powerhouse in Corpse Village, his chances of winning should be very high. On this day, Mo Shi floated to the surface of the sea to rest during a break in the battle. The bottom of the sea was dark and cold. With Mo Shi's eyesight he could see in the dark. With his physique he wasn't afraid of the cold. However, staying at the bottom of the sea in the dark and cold with desolate beasts all around him would make his mind tense and depressed. If he was tense and depressed for a long time he would probably go crazy. Therefore, Mo Shi would come to the surface of the sea to rest every once in a while. They stopped on an uninhabited island and set up the virtual sentry tower. Mo Shi was lying under the shade of a tropical tree, drinking beer and eating skewers. Of course, this beer and kebabs were not obtained by Mo Shi from the system. Now, every time he signed in, he could sign in a few drops of Titan dragon blood. If he used it to sign for beer and kebabs, it would be too wasteful. These things were all made by the people in the base. This world was not like Earth, where infected creatures were everywhere. Therefore, there were more ingredients and time to make some exquisite or refreshing food. Enjoying the sea breeze, drinking wine and eating skewers, one had to say that it was a kind of enjoyment. At this moment, the virtual sentry tower's alarm suddenly sounded in Emosher's mind. Emosher immediately probed with his draconic will. About 200 kilometers away, two people appeared. A man and a woman. The man was handsome and the woman was beautiful. The man was LV-10, and the woman was LV-8. The man must have brought the woman to level up by killing monsters. They jumped out of the sea, and the hoverboards under their feet quickly activated, flying towards the sky. At this moment, the woman's body seemed to be out of control and quickly fell towards the sea. Seeing this, the man was shocked. Little 5, then he quickly flew towards the girl. He grabbed the girl and tried to pull her up. But soon even he couldn't fly steadily, and his body kept swaying. A moment later, the two let out a scream at the same time and fell into the sea. Emosher saw this and was slightly surprised. He could feel that the wild beast that attacked the two just now should have used psychic power. On the Flaming Origin continent, some wild beasts could indeed use psychic power. But such wild beasts were extremely rare. Most people would almost never see one in their lifetime. At the same time, this made Emosher's heart tremble slightly. He quickly ate the skewers of meat and gulped down the beer in his hand. Then he leaped 2 steps and arrived at the sea where the man and woman disappeared. He probed with his draconic will. He saw that more than 100 meters below the dark blue sea, a wild beast that looked like a lobster was slowly diving. This lobster's 2 thick pincers were clamping the man and woman. No matter how they struggled, they couldn't break free from the lobster's attack. Emosher used the blood dragon's eye to look at the lobster. Species, devil dragonfish. Level, LV-8 wild beast, LV-9 psychic master. Ability, psychic attack. Emosher laughed. A lobster was a lobster, not a devil dragonfish. But Emosher was still a little surprised that this guy's psychic power had reached the level of a LV-9 psychic master. At this moment, the devil dragonfish used its psychic power to detect Emosher's arrival. It opened its mouth and let out a roar. A huge amount of psychic power attacked Emosher directly. Under its psychic power, Emosher was suppressed to the point that he couldn't breathe. After all, Emosher's dragon will was only LV-4 at the moment. But although he couldn't use his dragon will to counterattack, he could still use his dragon will to protect himself. The devil dragonfish saw that its psychic power couldn't hurt this human. It was a little surprised and curious. It immediately increased the output of its psychic power. But no matter how much psychic power it used, it couldn't increase its level, so it couldn't hurt Emosher. Emosher jumped down from the sky and entered the water. He used his psychic power to shield the surrounding seawater. At the same time, the blood dragon's wings spread and flew toward the devil dragonfish. The devil dragonfish's 200-meter-long feelers were like 2 giant pythons, attacking Emosher. But Emosher's flying speed was too fast, so he easily passed through the 2 feelers. In a flash, he was already at the devil dragonfish's abdomen. He raised his right fist. Bang! He threw a punch at the devil dragonfish's energy bubble. Poof! The energy bubble suddenly burst like a deflated balloon. Roar! Roar! The devil dragonfish kept screaming and stretched out several long legs. But these long feelers didn't want to attack Emosher. Instead, they were struggling to block the energy bubble. However, with its slender legs, it was impossible for it to block the broken energy bubble. Seeing this, its pair of small eyes turned blood red. It opened its pair of giant pincers and threw the man and woman away. Then it fiercely pounced on Emosher. But without the support of energy, its giant pincers didn't have any strength. Emosher didn't even have to dodge. He kicked the giant pincers that were swinging at him. Crack! The giant pincers were like dead wood that was blown by the wind. They were instantly broken into 2. Chapter 338. The devil arowana had lost its energy in one of its pincers. Its telekinesis could not affect Emosher too much. At this moment, fear finally appeared in its pair of blood-red eyes. It turned around and tried to escape. Emosher could not be bothered with it. Without its energy, even if it managed to escape, it would not be able to survive for long. As expected, its legs stopped moving before it could escape for more than a kilometer. Eventually its legs started to twitch. Its body slowly turned over and floated to the surface of the sea. It was no longer breathing. At the same time, a system notification sounded in Emosher's mind. Devil Arowana killed. Obtained 8 drops of Titan dragon blood. Obtained a strand of dragon consciousness. The dragon consciousness in Emosher's body was suddenly much larger than before. Hearing the notification, Emosher was a little surprised. He asked in his mind, "Can I obtain dragon consciousness by killing the Devil Arowana?" The system's response was immediately heard in his mind. Devil Arowana has a strand of the giant dragon Long Yensher's bloodline. Therefore, dragon consciousness can be obtained by killing the Devil Arowana. Emosher heard and thought to himself. His dragon consciousness had not improved for a long time. Since he could obtain dragon consciousness by killing the Devil Arowana. If there were more Devil Arowanas, wouldn't his dragon consciousness be able to reach level 5 very quickly? At the same time, the man and woman looked at Emosher as if they were looking at a monster. Judging from the momentum of Emosher's attack, he was obviously a level 7 scavenger. It was not strange for a level 7 scavenger to kill a level 8 Devil Arowana. But the strange thing was that he was not affected by the Devil Arawana's telekinesis. What shocked them the most was that Emosher did not use any energy at all. He killed the Devil Arowana in an instant with just a fist. This kind of combat power was crazy. How could there be such a crazy guy in the world? However, this place was not safe. Since the two of them had escaped the control of the Devil Arowana, they quickly swam towards Emosher. At the same time they kept gesturing to Emosher to leave. Then the two of them swam to the surface of the sea. When he reached the surface of the sea, he quickly activated his hoverboards and flew out for over 100 kilometers. Only then did he breathe a sigh of relief. At this moment, Emosher took a step forward and appeared behind them. When the two of them turned around, they saw Emosher following them. They looked at each other, then clasped their fists at Emosher and performed the ancient etiquette. The man said, "Thank you for saving us. If it weren't for you, the two of us wouldn't have been able to escape today." Emosher waved his hand. Okay. He actually didn't want to save these two people. He only wanted to kill the Devil Arowana. Saving these two people was just a bonus. The man continued, "My name is Duanmu, and I'm from the Duanmu family of the Cloud Prefecture. You saved us, so we should thank you." The young man spoke in an imposing manner. He didn't seem like an ordinary playboy. The woman also said, "If you need money, goods, or cultivation resources, you can do it." Emosher shook his head. Money, goods, or cultivation resources were useless to him. Seeing this, the young man with the surname Duanmu thought for a while and asked, "Then what do you want? Just say it." In the 16 prefectures of the Serene Cloud, our Duanmu family is also one of the top families. Just say something big and there's nothing the Duanmu family can't do. Hearing this, Emosher's heart skipped a beat. He actually had some understanding of the Duanmu family in the Yun state. Even in the 16 prefectures of the Serene Cloud, they were one of the top 5 families. Corpse Village Tiandao sect. In front of the Duanmu family they were nothing. Emosher never expected that the desolate beast he had killed and the two people he had saved along the way were actually people from the Duanmu family clan. Since that was the case, he would let them owe him a favor for saving their lives. If he needed help in the future, he would go to the Duanmu family. Thinking of this, Emosher shook his head and said, "I don't need anything for now. You just need to tell me where you met the devil dragonfish." Seeing that Emosher didn't have any intention of flattering them after knowing that they were from the Duanmu family, Duanmu's impression of Emosher improved greatly. Those people in the past, after knowing that he was from the Duanmu family, would all flatter him and do whatever they could to get him. However, what they said were all lies. He had already taken precautions against such things. Could it be that as a member of the Duanmu family, they couldn't even hear a word of truth? And today, this young man who saved them didn't have any intention of flattering them. This made him feel refreshed. He thought for a while and stopped being pretentious. He just remembered Emosher's favor of saving his life in his heart. Recalling what happened earlier, he replied, "Our family has already explored this area. Our clan has already scouted this region of the sea. The strongest beast here is only a grade 8 desolate beast. It shouldn't pose any danger to us. Ling and I came here to train. At the bottom of the sea we found an underwater tomb. When we opened the entrance of the tomb, a big guy jumped out." Emosher nodded and said, "Got it." Then he plundered their memories and flew toward the sea surface where they had just escaped. Duanmu shouted, "Wait, brother, are you going?" Emosher nodded and said, "Yes." Duanmu said, "It's too dangerous there. No one knows how many of these guys are in the tomb. If you go down alone, I'm afraid. Emosher turned his head and smiled. Are you afraid that I'll take all the good things in there? Duanmu shook his head and patted his chest. Am I that kind of person? Without you, we would have been eaten by the wild beast. You taking the things there isn't taking all of them. That's what you should do. It's just that it's too dangerous down there. Emosher shook his head and said, Don't worry about it. With that, his figure flashed and disappeared. The woman looked at the place where Emosher disappeared and asked, Duanmu, did you say something wrong? The man said, I told you not to call me by my real name in front of outsiders. The woman snorted and pouted. You're called Duanmu. The man stared at the woman. That won't do. I'm the young master of the Duanmu family. Won't it be a joke if I'm called Duanmu? The woman nodded. Okay, I'll call you young master Duanmu. My young master Duanmu, did you say something wrong just now? He saved our lives, but you let him go with just a few words. Duanmu recalled every word he had just said and shook his head. I don't think I offended him in any way. The woman asked again. Then what do we do now? The man thought for a moment and replied, He's strong, but no one knows what's in the tomb below. What if there's even greater danger? So we'll ask the family to send reinforcements. If he's in danger, we can help and repay him for saving our lives. Chapter 339. Let's call the family over as soon as possible. If something happens to him, we can help. Duanmu said. The girl called Ling said, Didn't you see him insta-kill a level 8 desolate beast with his bare hands just now? If he uses genetic and energy weapons, it should be easy to deal with a level 10 desolate beast. What danger can he be in? Duanmu shook his head. You haven't come out to train, so you don't know the danger at the bottom of the sea. Although he's strong, who can guarantee that there won't be any accidents? There's a good saying. You never know which comes first, tomorrow or danger. When you come out to train, the chances of encountering accidents greatly increase. So it's better to be careful. Ling curled his lips. How can the Duanmu family have such a cowardly young master like you? Duanmu shook his head. This isn't cowardice, it's caution. When it's time to be brave, I'm also very brave, okay? Ling shook his head. I can't tell. Duanmu chuckled. You'll be able to tell tonight. Ling rolled his eyes at Duanmu, and a blush flashed across his face. Annoying. Emosher left the two of them. He came to the place where the two of them had met with an accident. He probed with his dragon will. Sure enough, he found that there was an underwater tomb more than 30,000 meters deep at the bottom of the sea. Because of the passage of time, the ancient tomb was covered in sand and gravel. There were also large corals. If one didn't observe carefully, they wouldn't be able to tell that this was an ancient tomb. At this moment, on the side of the ancient tomb, there was a huge hole about 50 meters in diameter. This was the hole that the two of them had just opened. According to the memories of the two of them, they had used some kind of bomb to blast open this hole. With a thought, Emosher used a level 7 desolate beast nearby to condense 2 virus clones. He ordered the 2 virus clones to investigate. Soon, the 2 virus clones dived into the water and reached 30,000 meters deep at the bottom of the sea, arriving at the hole. Looking inside the cave, it was pitch black. Even with the eyesight of these 2 virus clones, they couldn't see what was inside. One of the virus clones continued to swim into the dark hole. However, just as it reached the entrance of the cave, a gigantic dark red pincer suddenly stretched out from inside. It clamped down on the clone. He was quickly dragged into the darkness. The clone didn't even have time to scream before it disappeared. Emosher frowned slightly. The other doppelganger placed the virtual sentry tower at the entrance of the cave. After the virtual sentry tower appeared, everything within 200 kilometers was under Emosher's control. The originally dark tomb finally revealed its true appearance under the virtual sentry tower. The seabed tomb was enormous. The structure of the tomb had long been destroyed. Some of the things inside had long been corroded beyond recognition by the seawater. At the entrance of the tomb, there were 2 giant lobster-like devil arowanas guarding it. Looking further in, there were nearly 100 devil arowanas. These devil arowanas were about 70 to 80 meters long. The smallest ones were 40 to 50 meters long. Of course, this was only their normal form. If it was in its combat form, the smaller devil dragonfish would be at least 400 to 500 meters long. The bigger ones were probably over 1,000 meters long. With so many devil arowanas, It was impossible for Emosher to deal with them without using his energy. But in the blink of an eye he thought of a solution. So he quickly flew into the water. Once he entered the water, he still used his telekinesis to shield these devil arowanas. When he arrived at the entrance of the cave, his dragon's telekinesis could already sense that the dragon's telekinesis of the devil arowanas in the tomb was so huge that he couldn't resist it at all. Fortunately, most of the devil arowanas hadn't noticed him yet. Therefore they didn't exert their telekinesis on Emosher. Emosher paused. He took a deep breath. His figure flashed and instantly disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already at the center of the tomb. Around him, there were hundreds of devil arowanas emitting a fishy smell. Emosher roared and punched hard at the energy bubble in the abdomen of a devil arowana with his right fist. Bang! The abdomen of the devil arowana was instantly blasted open. A large amount of energy surged into its body, causing it to writhe in pain. When the surrounding devil arowanas heard the roar, they quickly turned their heads to look. Many devil arowanas directly probed with their dragon's telekinesis. With that they found Emosher. Therefore all the devil arowanas roared and attacked Emosher with their dragon's telekinesis. However, Emosher had already expected this move. His figure flashed and he was already at the entrance of the cave. At the same time he punched at the energy bubble in the abdomen of a devil arowana at the entrance of the cave. Bang! Poof! After the energy bubble of this devil arowana exploded, the energy didn't rush into its body. Just flowed out. Its body also floated powerlessly in the water. When the rest of the devil arowanas saw this, they roared angrily. Their telekinesis pressed down on Emosher. Their bodies also chased after Emosher. However, Emosher had already used Dragon Shadow Step and leaped 1,000 meters away. Then he spread his blood dragon wings and flew forward quickly. The devil arowanas behind him reacted quickly and chased after him. Those who reacted slower were still shocked that their companion was killed. Emosher felt the telekinesis of more than 10 devil arowanas pressing down on him. His figure flashed and he instantly returned to the abdomen of the devil arowana at the front. He punched out. Bang! Poof! The devil arawana's energy bubble burst once again. When the rest of the devil arowanas reacted and pressed down on Emosher with their telekinesis. Emosher's figure flashed again and he had already escaped. He went back and forth. As he escaped, he killed these devil arowanas. Notifications kept coming in his mind. Killed 1 devil arowana. Obtained 8 drops of Titan Dragon blood. Obtained a strand of dragon's telekinesis. Killed 1 devil arowana. Obtained 8 drops of Titan Dragon blood. Obtained a strand of dragon's telekinesis. Just like that, Emosher led these hundreds of devil arowanas and played a cat-and-mouse game in the sea. These devil arowanas became angrier as they chased. These devil arowanas had always been very united. In addition, they were very powerful. Hence, some level 9 and 10 wild beasts did not dare to do anything to them. Now, a mere human was causing trouble in the territory of the devil arowana. They could not catch this human. How could they not be angry? In their anger, almost all of the devil arowanas chased after Emosher. Hence, one could see a human leading the way in front and a large group of devil arowanas following behind him. It was like a shepherd leading his flock to graze on the grassland. Chapter 340. Emosher was in the deep sea playing a game of cat and mouse with the devil arowanas. These mushroom arowana fish were like ferocious cats. It was as if they could easily kill this mouse. But no matter what, they could not catch the mouse. And the mouse seemed to brush past the cats by a hair's breadth every time. But every time it was able to avert the danger. The more the devil arowanas chased, the angrier they became. The angrier they were, the more brainless they became. Emosher took advantage of their brainless mistakes to kill 1 or 2 devil arowanas. At the same time, above the sea, there were about a dozen desolate hunters and a level 10 psychic master floating in the air. "Young Master Duanmu, are you okay?" the level 10 psychic asked. Duanmu shook his head and replied, "Ling and I are fine. It's just that the brother who saved us insisted on exploring the tomb below. That tomb is likely to be filled with devil arowanas, so he is likely to be in great danger." The level 10 psychic heard and immediately used his psychic power to investigate. Soon he found Emosher, who was being chased by a large group of devil arowanas. His expression changed slightly. Even a level 10 psychic like him would not dare to deal with such a large group of devil arowanas. After all, this was equivalent to more than 100 level 9 psychics. With so many level 9 psychics, a level 10 psychic like him would not be able to handle it. Thinking of this, he was about to call the other hunters to go down and save him. But at this moment he was slightly stunned. Because in his investigation, Mo Sure was not running away crazily. Instead, when he was running away he took the time to go back and kill 1 or 2 devil arowanas before turning back and continuing to run. After observing for a while, he was surprised to find that Mo Sure was not running away. Instead he was kiting the devil arowanas. He was using that strange footwork to teleport constantly. He was looking for opportunities to kill 1 or 2 devil arowanas. Although the psychic power of the devil arowanas was strong, because the target was too agile, they could not lock onto Mo Sure's position. Even if they had locked onto him, by the time their telekinesis attacks reached him, Mo Sure would have already disappeared. When the others saw the level 10 psychic master's expression, they were anxious, surprised, and shocked. They were all somewhat puzzled. What did this level 10 psychic master see? Uncle Nien, have you found it? What's the situation? Duan Mumu asked anxiously. Ling, who was beside him, was also a little anxious. Uncle Nien, say something. The psychic master surnamed Nien still didn't say a word. This inevitably caused everyone to feel anxious. After a while, the psychic master with the surname Nien withdrew his psychic power and said to the crowd, "Fly 500 meters up." After saying that, he flew up first. The rest of the desolate hunters also flew into the sky. Uncle Nien? Duan Mumu was a little anxious. Is there no hope? Ling was also a little anxious. Uncle Nien, say something. The level 10 psychic master with the surname Nien smiled. Follow me, he'll be here soon. Duan Mumu and Ling were surprised. Immediately he controlled his hoverboard shoes and increased his altitude. They reached a height of 500 meters. Just as they stabilized themselves on the surface of the sea below. Splash! A figure instantly leaped out of the sea. When Duan Mumu saw the figure he was delighted. It's him. Ling nodded and smiled. He should be fine. However, at the next moment, splash, 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 huge waves rose one after another. Almost 100 devil arowanas also leaped out of the sea. After leaping out of the sea, their speed skyrocketed. They chased after Mo Sure. When everyone saw this, they were all shocked. Even the desolate hunters had a slight change in expression. After all, these were equivalent to level 9 psychic masters. If any of them were surrounded by so many devil arowanas, they might not be able to escape. Even if they could escape, they might lose a layer of their skin. Duan Mumu hurriedly said, "Save him." Ling also said anxiously, "Uncles, please save him." The group of desolate hunters was about to take action. However, the psychic master with the surname Nien waved his hand to stop them. Don't disturb him. The group of desolate hunters was stunned. What do you mean? Duan Mumu was also stunned. Uncle Nien, you mean? At this moment, Mo Sure, who was being chased by almost 100 devil arowanas, flashed. He suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in the middle of the group of devil arowanas. Then he threw a punch. Bang! The energy bubble in the abdomen of a devil arowana burst. The surrounding devil arowanas were stunned and quickly turned to attack Mo Sure. However, at this moment, Mo Sure's figure flashed again, and he disappeared from where he stood. He continued to flee forward. After a while, when he saw that the time was right, he repeated the same trick. After killing 2 more devil arowanas, he fled forward again. Although the devil arowanas were angry and kept roaring, they seemed to be unable to do anything to Mo Sure. All the desolate hunters were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. This works too. I didn't expect this, I really didn't expect this. This kid is only a level 7 desolate hunter, but he can explode with such terrifying combat power. It's really rare. Did you see that? He didn't use any energy or weapons. He's fighting these devil arowanas with his bare hands. He's fighting an entire school of devil arowanas with his bare hands. Apart from him, there's probably no one else in the world who can do this. Ah, this kid is to my liking. The group of desolate hunters was full of admiration. The psychic master with the surname Nien said, with his strength, if he uses energy, killing these devil arowanas will be a piece of cake. So there's no need to worry. When Duan Mumu and Ling heard this, their faces were filled with shock. The psychic master with the surname Nien continued, his body movement is rare in the world. But what surprised me more was his familiarity with telekinesis. Ordinary people, even if they have such a body movement, would not dare to swim among the school of devil arowanas like him. After all, if they are not careful, they will be attacked by the telekinesis of the devil arowanas. Every time the telekinesis of the devil arowanas is about to attack him, he can teleport away. Even I am far from being able to have such a keen perception of telekinesis. Moreover, I have never seen this from any other psychic master. At this moment, a desolate hunter suggested, "Old Nyen, do you think, could he be a psychic master?" Old Nyen's eyes lit up when he heard this. He nodded, "Yes, it's possible." In fact, Old Nyen's guess was not wrong. Chapter 341. In fact, Old Nyen's guess was right. As Emosher was a long Nyen, he understood telekinesis very well. Hence, he was able to dodge the telekinesis attacks of the school of devil dragonfish. If the devil dragonfish's attacks landed on Emosher's body, they would be able to kill him in a very short period of time. Yes, to be able to dodge the telekinesis attacks of the school of devil dragonfish, you not only have to be careful, you also have to be brave. This young man is not bad. Old Man Yen praised again. Actually, he did not know that the reason Emosher dared to take such a risk and move between the school of devil dragonfish was because he still had a trump card. His dragon cave. If he was really hit by the telekinesis attacks of the devil dragonfish, although it would be very dangerous, he could still buy a second or two by using his dragon consciousness. This second or two was enough for him to take out the dragon cave and enter. As long as he entered the dragon cave, no matter how strong the devil dragonfish were, they could not do anything to him. Just like that, Emosher looked like he was running away pathetically. However, whenever he had the chance, he would kill one or two devil dragonfish. In such battles, he obtained more and more dragon consciousness. When the last devil dragonfish was killed by him, in his mind, a notification from the system sounded. Frowny face killed one devil dragonfish. Obtained one strand of dragon consciousness. Dragon consciousness has reached its limit. You can enter. Do you want to level up? Emosher heard and was overjoyed. His dragon consciousness could finally level up. Level up. Emosher said in his mind. The system's voice sounded. Frowny face, this level up requires 24 hours. You are not allowed to use dragon consciousness again within 24 hours. Emosher felt that 24 hours was not a problem at all. At most, he would sleep in the dragon cave for a day and a night. At this moment, Emosher flapped his blood dragon wings and left the sea surface. With his current strength, if he used all his strength, he would have no problem dealing with creatures below level 2 mutated dire beast. However, he could not use dragon consciousness now. His surroundings were dark and he could not see anything. Who knew if there would suddenly be a level 2 or lower mutated wild beast in the vicinity? Therefore, it was better to be safe than sorry. More than 500 meters in the air, when those people saw Emosher fly up, they were all shocked. A level 7 scavenger taking on 100 devil arowanas alone was already shocking enough. Most importantly, this guy was still unarmed. One punch after another, the 100 devil arowanas were all killed. This level of shock was no less than seeing a beautiful woman running naked on the streets. At this time, Duan Mumu came up to Emosher and said, "Brother, are you alright?" Emosher shook his head and looked at the people behind Duan Mumu. Duan Mumu said, "Oh, these are all members of our Duanmu clan. Previously, I was afraid that something would happen to you, so I called them over to give you a hand. But now it seems that my worries were unnecessary." Emosher smiled and said, "Thanks." Duan Mumu waved his hand and looked very bold. "What are you thanking me for? You saved our lives, so it's only right that we help you. It's a pity that we couldn't help you this time." The people behind Duan Mumu cupped their hands to Emosher. The old man smiled. "Thank you for saving young Master Duanmu. If you need anything in the future, feel free to come to our Duanmu clan in Yunzhou." Emosher nodded. "Okay, got it." Duan Mumu said, "Brother, why don't you come to our Duanmu clan now? I think you and I hit it off. Come to our Duanmu clan and have a good drink." Emosher shook his head. "No, I have something to do." Then he looked at the bottom of the sea. Duan Mumu said, "You mean the seabed tomb?" Emosher shook his head. "I just checked it. It's empty. But there's another exit under the tomb. There should be a lot of devil arowanas inside." Duan Mumu gave him a thumbs up. "Brother, you're awesome. I'm ashamed of my inferiority." Emosher smiled. "Don't tell me you're called Duanmu." Duan Mumu had an awkward expression on his face, but then he smiled generously. "Since you saved my life, I'll tell you the truth. My 5 elements lack wood, so there's a mu in my name. Together I'm called Duan Mumu." In fact, Emosher had already known his name from his memory. He smiled. A good surname is ruined by this name. Duan Mumu also showed a helpless look. Well, there's nothing I can do. Let these sad memories go with the wind. At this time the old man whispered to Duan Mumu. Young master, Madam wants you to go back as soon as possible. She has something to do. Duan Mumu nodded and cupped his hands to Emoshur. Brother, your name is? Emoshur said. Emoshur. Duan Mumu smiled. Doomsday? What a strange name. A good surname is ruined by this name. Emoshur nodded. Yes. Duan Mumu said, then that's it. Brother, I have something to do. I'll take my leave first. Then he turned and flew away. The others also cupped their hands to Emoshur, turned and flew away. Emoshur looked at the backs of these people and a sincere smile appeared on his face. The people of the flaming continent were unpredictable. But this group of people was one of the very few people he met who didn't have any bad intentions. He saved their lives and they only wanted to repay him. Although after he showed such strength they wanted to make friends with him more. However, this was only human nature. For the sake of the development of the base, even Emoshur would try to make friends with others if he had such an opportunity. After those people left, Emoshur took out the dragon's den from his system backpack with a thought. Then he got in and had a good sleep. This sleep lasted nearly 20 hours. After all, continuously fighting in the school of devil dragonfish was still very mentally draining. Chapter 342. Although he had leveled up to level 5 Long Yenshur, Emoshur was still not satisfied. Hence he left the dragon's cave and dived into the sea. Level 5 dragons could detect up to 250 kilometers away. Furthermore, he was able to find out more details. Hence, even though he had just entered the sea, he could detect everything in the tomb at the bottom of the sea. The last time he entered the tomb, he had already detected that there was a big hole in the tomb that led deeper into the cave. Although he did not have the time to investigate what was in the hole. However, there should be some devil dragonfish. Soon he arrived at the tomb. At this moment, Emoshur was already empty. This was just an empty shell. There were no antiques or treasures. There were no devil dragonfish either. Emoshur first used the corpse of the devil dragonfish outside to create a virus clone. Then he let the virus clone enter the tomb. After that, he placed the virtual sentry tower in the dark hole in the tomb. The virtual sentry tower kept sinking. Emoshur's dragons connected to the virtual sentry tower and continued to investigate everything in the hole. In his investigation, the hole was very big. It was so big that even his dragons could not detect its edges. One must know that Emoshur's dragon was able to scan a radius of 250 kilometers. Emoshur had never seen such a huge cave. At first the huge cave seemed very empty. In the entire cave, there were no other living things except for some microorganisms. The virtual sentry tower continued to sink. Gradually it sank down to about 10 kilometers. Some small dire beasts started to appear. The smallest of them was only 4 to 5 meters long. These dire beasts were more or less emitting fluorescent light. In the dark sea they were very conspicuous. It could be seen that the bodies of these dire beasts were basically translucent. Some were even completely transparent. Some were like long plastic pipes. Some were like a wide plastic film. As it continued to sink, it could be seen that it was getting brighter. Of course, the light did not come from the sun. It came from the layer of jellyfish-like things below. The diameter of each jellyfish's head was more than 50 meters. Its body length reached over 500 meters. Each jellyfish had long tentacles. These tentacles ranged from 100 meters to 1,000 meters long. Thousands of jellyfish spread a layer in the water. At a glance, it looked like a layer of translucent plastic floating in the water. Some of these jellyfish emitted red light, some blue light, and some purple light. All sorts of colors. It looked like a neon sign wrapped in plastic. Emoshur had seen this kind of desolate beast before when he had read about the desolate beasts on the Flaming Dawn continent. Wire jellyfish. Their bodies contained highly corrosive poison. Moreover, their long tentacles looked very soft, but when they attacked they could become as hard and straight as steel needles. Therefore it was called the iron thread jellyfish. These iron wire jellyfish, although each of them was only at level 5. However, because they were social animals, there were at least 100,000 of them in each group. In addition to releasing deadly toxins, they could also secrete a nerve-paralyzing toxin during battle. This nerve-paralyzing toxin didn't seem to be very powerful at first. One couldn't even feel its existence. However, as time passed, it would slow down the enemy's movements. Therefore, even some desolate hunters didn't want to encounter a group of iron wire jellyfish. As they continued down, the light became brighter. There were more and more desolate beasts around them. There were all kinds of desolate beasts. However, these desolate beasts were all below level 8. As they continued down, Emosher finally saw the desolate beast that he wanted to see. Devil dragonfish. Moreover, the number of devil dragonfish here seemed to be much more than before. Emosher estimated that there were at least 30,000 to 40,000 of them, if not 50,000. Many of these devil dragonfish gathered beside a lava river at the bottom of the cave. Many of them swam directly into the lava river. Some devil dragonfish even opened their mouths to drink the lava in the river. Emosher was secretly surprised. These devil dragonfish were the real deal. He looked over with the blood dragon's eye. Species, devil dragonfish. Level 8 mutated desolate beast. Ability, lava breath. Emosher was slightly surprised when he saw this. These devil dragonfish could spit lava. It seemed that he had to be more careful later. With his physique, he wouldn't be afraid of the lava for a short period of time. However, after 5 minutes, the lava would cause great damage to his body. Next, Emosher used his dragon's psyche to shield himself from the seawater and flew towards the cave entrance. Soon he flew below the cave entrance. After flying down for a while, some desolate beast swam over and tried to attack Emosher. Emosher used his dragon's psyche to scan. Rip, those desolate beasts were torn into pieces. The surrounding seawater was instantly dyed into a bloody mist. With his level 5 dragon's psyche, there was no problem in tearing these level 5 desolate beasts apart. Gradually, there were more and more desolate beasts around. However, Emosher's target was the lowest level devil dragonfish. He didn't want to be entangled with these desolate beasts. Therefore, he used his dragon's psyche. Rip, rip, rip. Accompanied by the sound of cloth being torn, the desolate beasts that attacked him were basically torn into pieces. The surrounding seawater was no longer transparent. Instead, it had turned blood red. As far as the eye could see, within a radius of tens of kilometers, everything was blood red. The smell of blood spread and attracted more desolate beasts. However, as these desolate beasts' levels weren't too high, with Emosher's current strength, he could easily use his dragon's psyche to tear these desolate beasts apart. Therefore, when Emosher flew down, it was considered very smooth. After a while, he came to the iron thread jellyfish layer. From here, the iron thread jellyfish covered the entire layer. It was as if someone had specially planned it here. Even if it was a desolate hunter, he would probably have to suffer if he wanted to go over. However, to Emosher, this was not a problem. He used the dragon shadow step and teleported to the bottom of the iron thread jellyfish layer. Looking up, those iron thread jellyfish didn't realize that a human had passed them. Emosher continued to fly down. After more than 10 minutes, he was finally not far from the bottom of the sea. From here, he could already see the fiery red lava river flowing slowly. As there was a lava river here, the water temperature was dozens of degrees higher than above. Of course, for the current Emosher, this high temperature was nothing at all. Looking around, near the lava river, the tens of thousands of devil dragonfish seemed to be enjoying the high temperature here. Chapter 343. Emosher looked at the devil dragonfish. They were swimming freely near the lava river. They seemed to be enjoying everything here. He shook his head. "I'm sorry to disturb your happy life." Then he used his dragon psyche to check the surroundings. The underwater cave was too huge. His draconic will could reach out to a radius of 250 kilometers. But he still could not reach the end of the cave. However, a radius of 250 kilometers was enough for him to use his dragon psyche. He used the blood dragon's eye to check the devil dragonfish again. After confirming that there was nothing like the devil dragonfish king, he was relieved. Then he teleported to the vicinity of a devil dragonfish. The blood dragon's eye quickly found the weakness of this devil dragonfish. Its weakness was not the energy bubble in its abdomen. These devil dragonfish relied on the magma sacs on both sides of their backs. These two magma sacs could produce magma or store magma. The devil dragonfish could still fight without energy. But if the magma sacs were to explode, they would be burned to death by the magma produced in their bodies. It was the same principle as if a poisonous snake's venom sacs were to explode, it would poison itself to death. If a hunter did not know this secret and attacked the energy bubble directly, what awaited him would be roasted into a pig by the magma. Emosher clenched his right fist and exerted force directly toward the magma sacs of the devil dragonfish. Bang! There was a loud noise. The magma sacs in the devil dragonfish exploded. A large amount of magma splattered everywhere. Fortunately, he had teleported away. Otherwise, he would have been burned by the magma too. After the magma sacs of the devil dragonfish exploded, the boiling magma immediately made it roll and struggle. But it was of no use. Soon, a large amount of magma boiled the surrounding water. In the end, the devil dragonfish became half roasted and half boiled. The rest of the devil dragonfish noticed the abnormality and immediately used their telekinesis to check it out. But Emosher had teleported away. At the same time, he activated his stealth camouflage skill. Previously, when he was dealing with the 100+ devil dragonfish, he did not activate his stealth camouflage skill because there were not many of them. Although it looked very dangerous, it was actually not too difficult to deal with him. In order to hone his combat ability, he deliberately increased the difficulty for himself, so he didn't use this skill. But it was different this time. There were tens of thousands of devil arowanas here. If tens of thousands of devil arowanas were to come at him at the same time, even with his level 5 dragon will, he could not withstand it. Therefore, to be on the safe side, he used this skill. The devil dragonfish were attracted by the destruction he had caused, and all of them used their telekinesis to investigate. When Emosher saw that none of the devil dragonfish had noticed him, he took the opportunity to sneak up to another devil dragonfish. He punched at the devil arowana. Bang! The magma sac of the devil arowana exploded once again. The entire body of the devil arowana was once again half grilled and half boiled. Of course, Emosher had already teleported away before it could become a grilled fish or a boiled fish. He activated the stealth camouflage skill again. Sometimes he could even disguise himself as a small devil arowana. The surrounding devil arowanas were a little confused. How could this devil arowana be so small? But they didn't care too much. Just like that, Emosher changed places after every shot. Within half an hour, he had killed thousands of devil arowanas. He had also obtained tens of thousands of drops of Titan dragon blood. At this point, the devil arowanas finally realized that there was a big problem. Therefore, all of the devil arowanas were on high alert. Their telekinesis was actually connected into a large area. It covered the entire area within a few hundred kilometers. In this situation, Emosher's stealth camouflage skill was no longer useful. Although this skill could reflect telekinesis to investigate. But that was when it was still. If you were constantly on the move, it would be impossible for you to evade detection. Emosher had already expected this. He did not hesitate. After killing another devil arowana, he quickly flew forward. Behind him, the devil arowanas discovered this human. They used their telekinesis to investigate, wanting to kill this human. But Emosher was too fast and he kept flashing left and right in front of them. In this way, the devil arowanas had lost their target. Their telekinesis could not lock onto Emosher at all. Occasionally, a few devil arowanas' telekinesis would coincidentally lock onto Emosher. But Emosher's dragon will had reached level 5. It was naturally impossible for a few devil arowanas' telekinesis to cause harm to Emosher. Thus, the previous scene appeared once again. Emosher kept flying in front. Behind him, a large group of devil arowanas caught up. But this time, the group of devil arowanas was a few hundred times bigger than before. One should know that each devil arawana's body was about 70 meters long. And this was a non-combat state. When they chased after Emosher, they were already in combat state. Each devil arawana was more than 700 meters long. Tens of thousands of devil arawanas that were more than 700 meters long. What a spectacular scene. When the other wild beasts saw this huge and terrifying group of devil arawanas, they quickly fled in all directions. Emosher was constantly flashing in the front, trying to escape. But occasionally he would turn back and kill a few devil arawanas. If this scene was seen by others, they would definitely be shocked. A human being chased by so many huge creatures. Not only did he not panic, but he also killed a few whenever he had the chance. This was really shocking. But Emosher did not have endless energy in his body. So after 2 hours he was a little tired. Looking at the group of devil arawanas that did not seem to decrease, Emosher was a little depressed. If this continued, when would he be able to kill all the devil arawanas? Fortunately, after more than 10 minutes, Emosher found another deep cave. The cave was not wide, about 100 meters in diameter. There was no danger inside. He immediately flew in the direction of the cave. Soon he entered the cave. The huge group of devil arowanas behind him was blocked outside. The entrance of the cave was too small for the group of devil arowanas. They could only enter by transforming into their normal size. And at most only 2 could enter at a time. This way it was best for embark. He continued to fly deeper into the cave. It looked like a long and narrow tunnel. The devil arowanas behind him were like queuing up, one head followed by the other, and they swam in. Embark turned back and killed a devil arowana, then continued to fly forward. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.